Amy is in the audience also, if you want to.
Oh yeah, I want to bring her in. What we have here is our guests today are we're featuring Amy Newman, who is known for her trademark slogan, Sending Love. She is a professional comedian and skeptic who hosts debates, interviews, and conversations on her YouTube channel. She also creates educational and other important content. Amy Newman's YouTube channel is at youtube.com/Amy Newman. TJump, also known as TJump, is an atheist philosopher who hosts conversations with professors, philosophers, and other academics about topics ranging from biology and physics to religion and morality, and so on. TJump's YouTube channel is at youtube.com/TJump. J. Mike is one of the co-hosts of the Talk Heathen show. Jefferson Spatchcock is an atheist inquisitor and intellectual who has particular expertise in analyzing and reviewing debates. J.L. Warren is an atheist activist, educator, and entertainer. He runs the Bridge the Divide YouTube channel, where he addresses irrational beliefs, the irrational behaviors that often follow, the societal divides they create, and how those divides can be bridged with education, rationality, and reason. Bridge the Divide's YouTube channel is at youtube.com/JL Warren. I'm Randolph Richardson. I'm an atheist from British Columbia, Canada. I'm the founding president of Canadian Atheists, and I'm an advocate for freedom, fair justice, and critical thinking. My YouTube channel is at youtube.com/Randolph Richardson. IX is a Tom Unboxes subscriber and former atheist community of Discord admin who enjoys long walks through evolutionary biology-inspired computer science, archaeological, academic, biblical criticism, and so on. Jack Burton is a self-described middle-aged, college-educated nobody who drives the Pork Chop Express truck in his spare time. He's a deist and mostly non-committal to philosophical stances. Peter de Tucker is an atheist from the Netherlands who handles the production of various YouTube channels, including Arn Roz, and generously contributes his professional artistic skills for free to atheists all around the world. Peter de Tucker's YouTube channel is youtube.com/GonnaGoForIt. And most importantly, Taco, our organizer of this event, is a #1 Discord debater who has never lost a Discord debate in his life. Thank you to everybody for tuning in, and good morning to Amy and TJump. You're both here with me. Did either of you have anything you wanted to quickly go over before we start bringing up our first guest?
I don't know, anybody live in Minnesota? Hook me up with cool connections. Instagram models, influencers, just anybody nearby to hang out with. I need more friends.
That sounds good. Amy, did you want to say good morning?
Just wanted to say hello to everyone. It's great to be here. What is up, audience, Randolph and TJ?
Great. Glad that you're all here. And welcome, Tech Mendy. Thank you for joining our stage. How are you today? And what have you got for us as far as a goddess or a god existing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. I was just curious what you meant by god or goddess. What qualifies as god or goddess?
Whatever you'd like to define it as. Typically, it means a non-physical mind that created everything else.
Oh, okay. I don't know what you mean by non-physical mind, but created everything else. Wouldn't the thing, matter, object that was at the center of the Big Bang be the god?
No, because it's not a mind.
Okay, so necessarily some form of mind.
Yeah, it would be an expansion event. Space-time was able to exist because without space you cannot have time.
So we're using English. In English, the word God refers to a mind of some kind that's usually created everything or has supervenience over things. So yes, since we're using English, it is typically the English word that we're going for.
Created is necessarily something from nothing, or created could be originated or source of.
Could be either.
Well, I guess there's no mind there, but
then it didn't create it.
Well, it did originate in the source of. It is the origination
Again, so
source
mind
of all
must
matter.
have mind. I'm not interested in semantics. We're using English. If you can just Google the definition God in the dictionary, you'll get a good idea.
Well then, that's all. Anyways, I'm gonna stay here, listen. Good stuff.
Cool.
Well, thank you for joining us. So the next person we have here who's willing to I guess, did either of you have any thoughts on this conversation before I bring up Noted?
It's just like TJump was saying, a non-mind God. It just seems, I wouldn't say 100% always playing with words, but generally speaking, we care about the guy, girl, someone who either created the universe or started it all or something like that, because we don't think that exists. We don't think that has good evidence.
I would very much like a mystical potato to exist, so please convince me of the mystical potato God.
Yeah, so defining God is interesting. People do sometimes come up and ask us how we define it. And as TJump answered, it's for the most part anything that people come up with, because there are certain characteristics. It is a mind, and it does have the ability to make decisions and things like that. Typically, it's a supernatural controlling superpower of some sort. Generally, it's if you were to say that it's just a potato, as TJump just mentioned, then, well, what does it do? Like, we could all say a potato exists. We want to use the English language, and that's because we're all conversing English here. Oh, hello, Noted. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, bro. Thank you. I don't know why every time I join you guys, my phone always gets problems.
You seem to be doing just fine today.
Well, not anymore.
Oh, the potato muted it.
Yeah, sorry guys. If my phone continues to give problems, just you could just kick me off. You know.
Well, we like to be more inclusive than that. So, and welcome, Peter. So, Noted. What thoughts did you have today?
Oh my goodness. Hello.
Hey.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good.
Yeah. I'll keep it short because my phone is giving problems, and at the end of the day, very introverted kind of guy, right? But it's funny when you said, this is my perspective, right? And I want you to hear me out, right? Because okay, so for me, right, you were saying that so for me, the way I look at it is that a mind is the only thing, right, that can deter the universe from its stillness, right? The universe is purely static laws that cannot deviate from itself, right? The universe cannot even create itself, for it would require existence prior for it to even have the properties to do that, right? So what my premise
Noted, sorry, can I quickly interrupt? Randolph, is it correct your stream isn't running?
I am working on that right now. I just found out. It looks like it was. I'm not sure. I'm working on it.
Yeah, just checking. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Noted.
No, it's fine. So my premise is what I'm trying to see, right? Is that a mind is the only thing that can deter the universe from its stillness, right? And what I mean by stillness, I'm going to elaborate on that again, right? Is that the universe is purely static laws that cannot deviate from itself, right? The law of gravity will always maintain its rate, right? It will never deviate from itself, So
the law of gravity has changed. In fact, it used to be repulsive, push things away. The universe was never still, so it doesn't need something to make it not still. It's always had fluctuations. And also, like,
no, I don't mean fluctuations in the sense that in the sense of a metaphysical understanding, because we understand fluctuations through our mental capacity of math and of variability. But what I'm looking at is the pure absolute physicality of the universe. When you look, do you see a tree? Do you see a tree moving from its spot? Do you see a leaf moving from? Do you see a tree rooted in the ground moving from its spot on its own?
Everything is always moving.
I'm going to tease you, Noted. Have you ever eaten a banana?
Yes, sir. I've eaten a banana. But the thing is, what you're doing is
hold on. I'm going somewhere. Banana trees walk.
What you're doing? Okay,
just say because you said a tree doesn't move, banana trees walk.
Yes,
first of all, banana trees
wanted
do
to
not
throw
walk.
that out.
They have spores. They have spores within their proximity. They produce new.
There are trees
they
with their
walk.
vines
During their life. They move.
Yeah, there are trees that literally walk, but it's irrelevant to your
Listen, brother, I'm going to explain it to you one more time. A banana tree. Listen, let me finish what I have to say. Right?
It's a multicellular organism, so I'm confused why like them not having a mind or staying still is relevant.
So I will get back to my point because you guys are going all over the place, right? I am not. What I'm trying to say.
Sorry.
What I'm trying to say is the stillness of the universe.
There is no such thing.
It is because all physical laws perpetuate itself. You're not understanding. I'm not necessarily.
It's expanding. Hold on. It's expanding.
Okay. You're right.
Galaxies move. Planets move. Nothing in the universe is still. Literally nothing.
I get that. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that in the stillness, I'm not saying absolute of being still. What I'm saying is that all laws cannot deviate from themselves. If you look at photons, you look at electromagnetism, if you look at entropy, if you look at any physical law, it always maintains its principle. It does not deviate from itself. It never will. Why? Because that's what defines limitation. That's what defines a law.
It does, and noted. Hold on. It does because all the laws you just mentioned, are man-made.
Right.
Those are descriptions.
Oh my goodness, brother, hold on. Let me stop you right there one more time. Math is intertwined with physicality. Conceptualization is intertwined with physicality.
I didn't
you cannot
mention,
tell me it is separate.
Hold on.
You cannot say that.
Hold
that
on.
is trauma.
Hold on.
All right.
I didn't mention math. I said laws. The laws of
what do you
physics
think laws are? What do you think laws are? What do you think? They're mathematical. All physical descriptions have math.
Please let me finish a sentence. Note it. Let me finish a sentence. The laws that we have are descriptive. We made them to explain what we see. And they change every single time new evidence comes in. Those laws change. Those laws are not fixed.
Let me tell you something, brother. If light was not to move at its exact rate, which is 3.9 times 10 to the 8th, sorry, that's gravity. If light was not... No. If light was to deviate from one increment, electromagnetism
which it does,
will not work. Gravity will not work. The only time you have a law
what are you talking about? Light is deviated by black holes. What are you talking about?
I was about to get to that. I knew you were going to bring that up. Let me finish. The only time light deviates from itself is when there's space-time dilation. But the reality is it's not even changing the law of light. What's happening is gravity is accelerating it, right? So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, what I'm trying to say is that physical laws are static and they cannot deviate from itself, right?
No. In physics, Peter, stop. So in physics, there are multiple theories that have a deviating speed of light that changes all the time. There's nowhere that says the laws of physics can't change, but it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Your argument is just terrible.
Bro,
God's
what are you talking
about? So God's mind isn't random, right? It has a nature to it that doesn't change, right?
Correct, because God is the infinite principle of logic. Correct.
What God is holding his mind together, keeping it from changing?
God's mind is not what you're doing is you're limiting God to all principles of validity, of validness.
So you're saying he doesn't need to be limited, right? He doesn't need to have some external God holding him together. He just stays together on his own, right?
God is the source itself.
That's great.
Does infinity need? Hold on, let me ask you this: does infinity need anything but itself? Does infinity need anything but itself? I know this is a conceptual thing, but think about it. That doesn't make any infinity sense. Only renders more of itself. Does it need anything beyond itself?
Stop. I don't give a shit. Stop. So your argument is that the universe needs something to keep the laws consistent, right?
Of course, if all laws form harmony because they all maintain exactness.
But God doesn't need anything outside of himself to keep himself consistent, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, so couldn't the universe just keep itself consistent? It doesn't need anything outside of itself, just like God doesn't need anything outside of himself?
Correct. Of course, God doesn't need anything out of himself because God is existence itself. God is logic itself.
Okay. So let's say the universe.
You didn't hear the question.
The universe is existence itself. The universe is logic itself. The universe doesn't need a creator. The universe does not need a God to hold it together, just like your God doesn't need an extra God to hold it together because the universe is existence itself.
Okay, so now what you're doing is you're producing your belief over mine. But what I'm trying to tell you, okay, so if that's the case, how can? Okay, so let me ask you this question.
Let me ask
you this question on the par with what you just said.
Noted.
He got it. Peter, he got it. Let him go.
What TJump tried to explain.
Peter, he got it. He understood.
Just one sentence. What TJump tried to explain is the rules you put up on God. Why can't you apply those to the universe? Why is there special pleading for God?
Because basically, listen to me, this is the question I was going to ask. What I'm trying to say is that the universe cannot create itself. Why? Because it would need existence, space-time, prior to having the properties to create itself. That is the number one. First of all, that is the number one flaw with creation, with the universe having sentience, right?
Wait, so when no space-time isn't required, it's not the most fundamental thing in physics. Space-time is emergent from other things that existed outside of space-time. But
space-time, listen to me, brothers.
Go back. So you said, can God create himself from nothing?
That is what you're doing is you're limiting God to all principles of
you've already limited.
God does not. God is infinite. Therefore, God is infinite. God is an uncaused cause. Or God is the cause.
Hold on. You have already limited
God to our principles of validity, man.
I asked you a question.
You have already limited God by saying that he cannot change. That is limiting God.
I don't care.
No, but that is true.
Wait, can God?
No, but you're right. Let me tell you why. Because if God is logic itself, right, then that means God will have limitations, but that does not negate his all-powerfulness. What that does is it proves that his all-powerfulness aligns with logic. You understand? And I will confirm that because God, hold on, I will confirm that God can, if God is the source of existence and God is infinite, therefore God cannot exist and exist at the same time.
That makes sense.
That is within logic, God is. Right?
That's not what I said.
Right. Yeah, but what I'm doing is I'm giving you more sustenance to kind of deviate what you're saying.
I'd really like to get back to the point and get off this irrelevant tangent.
You do not listen.
I'd really like to get back to the point.
To what people are saying to you.
Really like to get back.
You need to listen.
I'm listening now, bro. What is it? What is it you want to?
Well, I'd like to go back to what the point was.
TJump, go ahead.
So your argument is that the universe needs some mind to hold the laws of physics together. And I said, no, it doesn't. Just like how you think God doesn't need something external to himself to hold his nature together, you could just say there is no God and the universe is the most fundamental thing in all of reality and it's holding itself together just fine without a God. And then you said that can't be because why?
Listen, bro, what you're literally doing is you're giving the universe a sense of consciousness, which is not true, right? What you're doing is you're giving it this, because if you, and even though what you're even saying is basically saying that the universe is God, because at the end of the day, the
no
universe,
consciousness. So wait. So universe has no consciousness. It's just matter and energy and the laws of physics, and that's it. No consciousness.
Okay, if that's the case, let me say this then. The universe does not have the potential, the physical, listen to my words, right? The physical universe does not have the potentiality to arise morality or knowledge.
Yes, it does.
As a physical mechanism cannot be reduced back to a metaphysical construct. You understand? Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, that's wrong.
What you're basically... No, that's not wrong.
Yes,
because,
it is.
okay,
Wait,
so then prove to me,
yes.
Find me the chemicals that make up a metaphysical construct, which is impossible because chemicals are purely physical. You understand what I'm saying?
Metaphysics is just the fundamental nature of reality. So if physicalism and naturalism is true...
No, that is how you're coping, bro. What you're doing is you're saying the physical universe produced metaphysics.
Stop. Noted.
Responsible.
In philosophy, noted. Stop. Shut up.
Completely physical.
Stop.
Noted. Calm down for a moment.
What does the word metaphysics mean in philosophy? In academic philosophy, what does the word...
It means beyond physical, to put it simple.
No. Google. Just go to Google.
It means beyond physical, to put it simple. Meta means beyond. Brother, do you really want to look like a clown right now, brother? Go look up what meta means.
In philosophy, if I go to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, if I go to Oxford Dictionary of Philosophy and I type in metaphysics, what will the definition say? Because it's not going to say beyond physics. No philosophy textbook says that, noted.
Brother, it's basically saying nothing that is very... It's, to put it simple, it's basically saying that it's not truly of physicality, right?
No.
Because if we want to really talk about metaphysics...
Which philosophy textbook? Give me a philosophy
you want to talk
textbook.
about metaphysics, let's get to metaphysics and how it has any correlativeness to physicality. So explain do you know anything about the quantum eraser?
Stop. What is the definition? What is the definition of metaphysics in every single philosophy textbook in the world? What is the definition?
The definition of metaphysics, bro, metaphysics just literally, as I told you, it deals with things that are not truly physical. It deals with a mental...
Give me a link to any academic journal that gives that definition. Tell me.
Brother, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to type metaphysics in Google, and I'm going to let the dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, give me the meaning on Google,
I want like
right? This is what it says. You ready for it?
Philosophy journal. Go to a philosophy journal. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Do something that is actually...
Bro, listen, bro. I don't have time for this. Listen, bro. Listen to me. What? I'm looking at the link right now on dictionary from Oxford. It says the metaphysics, the branch of philosophy that deals with the first principles of things, including, listen to it, including abstract concepts. Now, abstract concepts do not derive from anything but the mind. Why? Because the mind is a duality.
That's wrong. Again,
the mind, that is not true.
You've stopped reading the definition. Wait. You've stopped reading the definition, and now you're making shit up on
your own.
Such
as being, knowing, identity, time, and space.
Right.
Correct.
And
as I was
time and space are physical.
Right.
Substance is physical. Being is physical. So
substance
these are all
physical. Then
things.
prove to me. Okay, I'm listening. Sorry.
So these are all physical things. Wait. So abstract concepts can be also explained as physical things, because like Platonic objects,
but not entirely, not absolute. Entirely. It may have a correlativeness to physicality, but not entirely. Because you want to know why?
No. Stop. So notice, nowhere in the definition did it say beyond physics. That's not anywhere in the definition. It doesn't say.
I never said it was absolute of beyond physics, brother. Nothing is beyond our physical laws. Everything is combined.
It's beyond physics.
Hey, now we agree.
Brother, it is beyond physics. But listen to me. This is why I was going to explain.
Oh my God! No. You started when I asked you for the definition. The first thing you said was it's beyond physics, and then I said no, that's not the definition.
Yes,
and then you disagreed. Now we went to the dictionary and said, oh look, that's not the definition. So you were wrong. Now, if you
I
like,
do not
we can
mean-
go to like a philosophy
God.
journal. Like if we go to a philosophy journal like Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and look up the definitions of metaphysics, it's a much better source than the dictionary, but you do you. Either way, metaphysics is the fundamental nature of reality. So if you're a naturalist, it's called metaphysical naturalism.
Physicality is the fundamental nature
Stop
of
interrupting.
reality.
Stop interrupting.
That is
What is metaphysical naturalism? What do those words mean? Metaphysical naturalism.
Okay, brother, this is how I'm going to explain it to you. If you are a scientist and a physicist, you rely on observation, you rely on physical reactions and chemical reactions.
I'm asking for the definition.
You do not, listen to me, bro. Listen to me. You're not talking to somebody who's indoctrinated entirely by religion. You're talking to somebody who knows the science as well, right?
Hold on.
So you need to listen to me too, bro.
Noted. You said that metaphysics, it can't be just the physical, and I'm trying to show you that you're just ignorant of
correct.
philosophy.
Metaphysics requires physicality and beyond physicality.
Okay.
Requires
so wait,
both. That is why it's called
what is metaphysical naturalism?
Metaphysical naturalism to me exceeds it. Listen to my words. It is simultaneously requiring physicality, but at the same time, it is not. Right. This is how quantum physics stemmed. This is how we perceive the mind. You understand?
So metaphysical naturalism is a position in philosophy that most philosophers hold. It's a specific thing. It's not like I'm just asking you what the two words mean. I'm saying metaphysical naturalism is the position of most philosophers that metaphysics is fundamentally just natural physical stuff. So most philosophers...
Listen to me. You're strawmanning once again. Yes, it is natural because we have been exposed to it. But if you were to reduce it back to a physical mechanism, it cannot stem. You understand what I'm saying?
No.
Do you not understand what I'm saying? I'm not denying physicality because
I understand what you're asserting.
Physicality with metaphysics. You understand?
Noted. I understand what you're asserting.
I'm not trying to...
Hold up. So the only thing I'm trying to show for you here is that the consensus view of professional academic philosophers is metaphysical naturalism, which means metaphysics is just physics, nothing more, only natural, nothing more than natural.
Incorrect, because if it is, brother, I know this is how you cope. I understand, brother. I understand. You're like, okay, I accept the universe for what it is. But I'm a scientist as well. And if I were to take the mind and reduce it back to physicality, there's no way in hell that neurons, which are 7 limited chemical reactions, can produce. Explain to me how reason in itself. Explain to me how reason in itself.
Hold on. Let me ask jumping to a different topic. So
but this is to validate what I was saying in a more elaborate.
I'll answer that too. So my point here is that most academic philosophers understand the word metaphysics doesn't mean beyond just physical stuff. Just physics is metaphysics for most philosophers and most scientists.
Brother, I get what you're saying. What you're basically saying is that, okay, this is not a phenomenon. This is just a part of life.
No, I'm saying that your definition is wrong.
It's not a part of life because everything in life has an explanation for its physical mechanism. That is what science is. That is what observation is. Anything beyond that enters the realm of consciousness, God, and metaphysics.
No, it doesn't.
Do you not realize that?
None of that was what I was saying. So first, the randomness is actually a thing in physics. You can just check foundational attitudes towards quantum
mechanics. You're coping right now, dog.
You're
not listening to me, bro. You're not listening to me.
I was addressing one of the things you said, then I want to go back to the topic. So randomness, not everything in physics is determined. There is true randomness. That's the consensus among physicists. But the point I wanted to bring up is that your definition of metaphysics is factually wrong. Everybody in philosophy understands metaphysics to be not anything like the way you're defining it. So you've made up your own definition that means nothing like what philosophers mean by metaphysics. Metaphysics just means the fundamental nature of reality, which can be purely natural.
So I'm about to show you. I'm about to show you an example of how metaphysics differentiates from physicality. Are you ready for it? Because I'm going to ask you this question.
Sure,
right?
Go for it.
How did reason itself, the ability to filter out illogicality from logic, how did reason in itself, right, stem from a physical mechanism? Explain that one to me. Explain to me.
Reason is a
You will
product
search
of...
you will search your entire life. You will never find
you're supposed to let me finish
Why?
first.
Because metaphysics will always have a differentiation from physicality, even though they are intertwined. You understand?
You need to stop speaking so I can answer the question.
One more time.
Hold up. You need to stop speaking so I can answer the question. That would be super useful. Rationality in the mind is a product of evolution. It doesn't... It's not hard to explain.
You see your retort, my friend. You're going to evolution. That I could even disprove evolution with meiosis and mitosis, right? I'm coming back to the point one more time. I'm going to ask you one more time. Reasoning in itself, which is the ability to filter out illogicality from logic
evolution.
And vice versa, right? I didn't ask you that's your coping. I'm asking you for the physical mechanism to how that arises. Because if you look at DNA, which does not even contain a lot of the things that cells replicate on, right? How can a DNA code, which is ones and zeros, to put it fundamentally in a binary fashion, right? How can that arise the ability to have reason in itself? That is where the mind, which is a dualistic nature, which many philosophers have pondered for years, and this is why metaphysics is so indifferent, because even quantum physics,
gibberish, irrelevant. So the consensus in neurologists.
So then, how reason in itself formed from the universe?
Hold up.
How did reason in itself form from the universe?
Shut up, so I can answer. Shut up, so I can answer. So the consensus among all neurologists. Stop talking. The consensus among neurologists, psychologists, cognitive scientists, everybody who studies the mind, is physicalism. Physicalism is the position the brain is nothing more than physical. There is no extra junk.
Oh, you ready? You ready for this? You ready for this? Because I will give you the answer, right?
No.
When you're done. Sorry.
Okay, so the way rationality evolved was from evolution, which built processes like the brain, and the brain can do different binary switches and in and out switches of logic processing, just like computers do. And that's how we do rational thought. And we make mistakes because it's a big flesh blob. That's how it's answered. That's the consensus of every academic field, and you are kind of delusional.
And then after you respond, noted, I just want to ask you a question. Oh, you might have dropped. So I'm going to use that to just explain very quickly that the mitosis and meiosis, I mean, these come from self-replicating molecules.
Guys, I don't know why I'm not hearing any of you. What's going on?
Oh, can you hear us now? But I want to know if anyone specifically, he dropped, a theist or creationist thinks mitosis is supernatural or beyond the physical, because all evidence points to it being a natural process. And I just want to also point out that creatures that can do reason and gather evidence are a new thing that is the hallmark of being an animal. It's only existed for, millions of years, which is old in our terms, but, in terms of life is actually done just fine without having a brain or needing reason. It just follows the physical laws as a chemical structure. But I would love to know a creationist who thinks that genetics, is really the hallmark. I just want to know if mitosis and meiosis is a supernatural process. I would love to get an answer for that sometime.
Well, it looks like he's kind of disconnected anyway, so I'm ready to move on to the next speaker if you guys are.
Yeah.
Looks like he's having connection problems. We do have Otangelo in the audience today. Randolph, if you want to talk with Otangelo real quick.
Okay, I just brought him in here. Otangelo, welcome. How are you?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm fine, thanks. And you?
Doing pretty good. Unfortunately, Noted was having some technical difficulties, but we can probably revise a little more a little later on once he's got that sorted out. Have you got something new for us today, Otangelo?
Well, I wanted actually to have a follow-up on what we were discussing last time when I was here, and this is about the origin of the genetic code, which, in my understanding, is a language, and that would then come to the question: what explains best the origin of language? Is it a mind or is it a physical process? Now, before we actually continue, I was listening to TJump having that interaction with with the previous guest, and I don't think it provides good conversations when one or the other or both constantly interrupt each other. So I would appreciate, I will try my best to not interrupt my interlocutors, and if they also wouldn't interrupt when I am answering and just waiting until I finish.
So, Otangelo, you're talking about genetic code being a language. Perhaps you can elaborate for us on what you mean by language, because typically what we're thinking and what I think most people think of as a language is something that is interactive, and we can we're using language to have a conversation here. It doesn't seem to me the case that one can have a conversation with genetic code. It's more just an expression of the genes. We can kind of get an idea of what we're seeing, but it's not something that we can interact like a normal language. So perhaps you can elaborate on what you mean by language in this context.
Yeah, sure, Randolph. So what I mean by that is that when we have a sign or a symbol and attribute a meaning to that sign, then that giving that attribution or meaning is always something which precedes a mental process. So a mind has to give a meaning to a symbol. And let's say, for example, if someone is stranded on an island, and then he puts a sign on the sand, SOS, and an airplane flies over that island and looks down to the island and to the beach and sees that SOS sign, then that person can make an interpretation of that sign, and it means, of course, someone needs help there. So he can actually ask for help so that person there stranded can actually be rescued. So that is basically analogous to what we see in the genetic code, which is an attribution of meaning. That is, there are 64 codon words. These codons, they are 3 nucleotide combinations. And for example, the sequence AUG means a stop sign. So that means for the machinery of the ribosome, stop with translation. So there is an attribution of meaning of these 3 nucleotides, which the machinery can interpret and make a meaning out of that sequence of 3 nucleotides. And my point is that I think that assigning meaning to words or signs or symbols is always a thought process. So that's my argument.
So when it comes to the acronym SOS, that meaning save our ship, there is intent behind it, however vague, that it is a call for help. Is there something similar in genetics that this language of genetics, as you're calling it, that acts like a call for help? The thing with language is there's always intention behind it, and I think the point that we're having trouble connecting here is that, or maybe you're having trouble connecting because I don't see it, is the intent, some kind of mindful intent to express something. A stop sign in traffic, there's a mindful intent to communicate to drivers with the purpose of achieving more safety and whatnot, and the regulations on the road. But with genetics, there's no regulations behind it that have this kind of intention, as far as we can tell. And you know, you're saying that genetic code is this language from, I guess, from your God. But didn't your God write a Bible that uses a language that we actually understand. Why work with some divinely hidden language like genetic code that people aren't going to notice so readily? We have to learn quite a lot about how science and reality works before we can get to that. Like why is your God so tricky and deceptive and hiding so much from us instead of just making it all obvious to us so we could start off with a higher quality life right from the beginning? Does God not love the human species? You know, you're going to have to show us that there is mindful intent behind genetic code to qualify it as a language. I don't see it as a language. I see it as a code. I think what you're doing is you're looking at it and saying, aha, that looks like a language, so therefore it must be a language, and therefore God. I'm not convinced by this, though. I'm not seeing the connection. I'm having trouble with this.
Yeah, first of all, Random, we have basically discovered that life is not based just on chemicals, but also on information. So I don't think it was primary God's intent to teach us something by instantiating and programming the genetic code. It was actually in order to convey and to create life, because genetic code is actually life essential. So we have basically just discovered that state of affairs, which of course requires an explanation. Why is there that mapping of 64 codons to 20 amino acids? First of all, the origin of that state of affairs cannot be explained by evolution, because evolution depends on a fully set up self-replicating cell. So evolution starts when life starts, and the origin of the genetic code is not a problem for evolution, but for the origin of life. So you have basically here two competing hypotheses. Either an intelligence was involved to instantiate, create, and program the genetic code, or it was not. But what we see is that selection of these 64 codons is arbitrary. So there is no physical need that the sign AUG is actually attributed to command stop. It could be another nucleotide sequence. And what is also interesting, that the genetic code is actually amongst basically almost an infinite set of possible codes, the most robust one, because it is also redundant. That means that there are up to 6 codon words assigned to one amino acid, and that means that it is error prone. So it is optimal to minimize possible mutations and errors during translation. So I would say once we have arbitrariness, the question is, why would random chemicals on a prebiotic earth create such a state of affairs?
I would just want to say it seems that it was formed by evolution. We would need evidence that these 64 codons actually come from a mind and aren't just the self-replicating molecules interacting and creating, eventually, fruiting bodies.
I have a problem with the phrasing. It wasn't created. It formed, which is entirely different, because creating needs a creator. That is slipping in your own conclusion.
Okay, I can go with that, Peter, and rather than using the word created, the word formed. How did it form? How did that arbitrariness of assignment come to be? Yeah, you can say we don't know. Of course, you can resort to that, and you're free to do it.
I didn't say we don't know. I said chemistry. We've seen RNA form spontaneously. RNA makes DNA, so we can get DNA through a spontaneous process. We can get that. We already know that.
When
So
you're moving goalposts,
it's not. I'm not saying. I'm not saying that. Hold on. I'm not saying. Hold on.
DNA.
Hold on. I'm not
It's
saying.
about
I'm not saying. I'm not saying that that is what happened. We know it is possible, and for now, that's all we need to know. We don't need a creator because we already have a way to get there naturally without any outside force acting upon it. So why would we need a creator if we can get there through purely natural processes? It's just adding in more complexity where it's not needed.
Okay, first of all, you're moving goalposts, Pete, because we are not talking, I am not talking about the origin of the RNA and DNA molecule. That would be another topic, and I entirely disagree with you on your claim. But the question is about how did that mapping or assignment of codons to 20 amino acids emerge? And as I said previously,
It forms spontaneously in a lab
I didn't finish, Peter. I would like to finish my sentence. Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So the question is, what explains the origin of that mapping or assignment in a more case-adequate manner? You have basically two competing hypotheses. One is that intelligence did it, and the other is that just chemistry worked somehow. And I say that upon our understanding and experience, we know that we as intelligent beings, we are capable through our intelligence to assign meaning to a symbol or a word, while we have never seen chemicals which have no intelligence doing that.
I agree. So another thing we haven't seen. Amy, hold on. Another thing we haven't seen.
That though. That's what DNA is.
Is an intelligent creator. So when you say we have two competing hypotheses, no, we don't. Because for the one that we have observed in a lab purely by accident, no one was going for that. That happened purely by accident in a completely different experiment that, in hindsight, had the correct ingredients to make RNA form spontaneously. We have observed that. We have not observed a creator. So we do not have two competing hypotheses. We have one that brings in magic, and we have one that we have observed in real time and can replicate. So we have one hypothesis that works, another one that is based on that's made up out of whole cloth. Unless you can actually demonstrate your intelligent creator, you have nothing. Because that's where you need to start. If you want to invoke an intelligent creator, start with demonstrating that this creator exists. And then we can investigate and see whether or not he created something and what he created. Until then, you have literally nothing. And we've been over this, Otangelo. This is where you conk out. This is where you say, literally, you have told me this more than once. This is where you say, I don't have to demonstrate that for you. My claim is sufficient. And it is not. It wasn't 2 years ago. It wasn't a year ago. And it still isn't.
Okay, Peter, two things here. First of all, after I educated you that my topic is not about the origin of RNA and DNA, you doubled down and actually didn't give attention to what I said. The origin of RNA and DNA, the physical molecule, is an entirely different topic than explaining the origin of the genetic code, which is a mapping or assignment of 64 codon 3 nucleotides to 20 amino acids. That's the first thing.
which
Secondly,
is spontaneously forming
I
RNA
didn't finish.
is literally explaining that.
I didn't finish, Peter. Okay. So the second point that you said, well, I first need to demonstrate my God. No, I don't. The evidence, what is the path to the cause. In the same sense that you don't have eventually the perpetrator of the murderer on a murder scene, but based on the evidence on the bullet in the chest and no arm nearby of the victim, you can actually draw an inference to what probably happened.
Okay, hold on. Now I need to interrupt and clarify because we have seen yes. We have demonstrated that bullets come from guns. We have demonstrated that bullets can kill people. That is all been demonstrated.
Let him talk, Otangelo. Stop this childish nonsense, man. Let him talk, and then you can respond.
No, I didn't finish
the example you give is based on observation. Every single part of it, every single part of a murder case, we can recreate, we can demonstrate. Now you demonstrate your God, and then we can talk. Okay. If you want to equate it with a murder case, demonstrate your God. We know people exist. We know people have guns. We know where guns come from because people create guns. Every step in the process that you want to equate it with, we know by observation. So if you want to equate it to a murder case, demonstrate a God exists. If not, stop talking.
Okay, so now you are conflating the murder scene with actually the murderer itself. So you are interrupting me again. So you are interrupting me again, Peter.
Because you didn't listen. I told you we have demonstrated that people can kill other people with guns.
Bye.
It is your example. Either stick to it or don't. It's your equation.
Okay, either I can finish. Okay, either I can. Okay, Taco. If I am not able to finish my response, and I've been interrupted by Peter.
Stop now. Go ahead and finish your response.
Then I am just leaving.
Yeah.
Okay. So
finish.
So the murder scene is equivalent to the observation, the scientific observation of the assignment of 64 codons to 20 amino acids. In the same sense as the murder scene eventually leads to the perpetrator of the crime, which is the murderer.
Okay.
The fact that we have the evidence, which is that mapping, that assignment or arbitrary assignment of meaning, that also leads to an inference, to the best explanation. So what
I
is
agree.
So it is that
agree.
we know by experience that intelligence does actually create signs and symbols and words and attributes meaning to these signs. Like the word chair is equivalent to the physical object where you sit down. So what does that mean?
I agree with everything.
If we have evidence that the mechanism is case adequate, intelligence creates codes and symbols with meaning, and we do not have evidence that physical, chemical materials do assign meaning to symbols, then intelligence is the best explanation and the more case adequate answer.
Okay. Can let me try and figure out what you just said, right? And I'll take as short a time as I possibly can. In a murder case, all of the evidence leads to the murderer. Am I correct?
Well, we have two competing hypotheses. One is
that's a yes or no. This is a yes or no question. I asked you in a murder case. Does the evidence lead to the murderer?
You are putting the cart in front of
This is a simple question, Otangelo. In a murder case, in a murder investigation, does the evidence lead to the murderer?
If it is established right from the beginning that there was
this is a yes or no question. Answer with a yes or no question with a yes or no, and then elaborate on your yes or no. But start with yes or no. Does it lead to a murderer?
Yes, but if we are talking about the fact that there that you can establish
we're only talking about a murder case.
Why are you interrupting me? Why are you interrupting
because
me?
You deflect.
Because you deflect. No, because you are
asked you about a murder case.
No, you
Stop
are
thinking about everything else.
You are inserting that it was a murder case right from the beginning in the premise when that
you
is not
came up with you came up with the equation, Otangelo. It wasn't my idea. You came up with. You said it is similar to a murder case, and I want to point out where you go wrong. So don't get mad because you're wrong, because I'm going to prove you wrong, because it's your example. You said it's equivalent to a murder case. In a murder case, all the evidence leads to the murderer, which means that if we have all these codons forming and you think that it leads to an intelligence, then you have to demonstrate that this intelligence actually exists. Because in the murder case, we know that murderers exist. We know that the murderer, if it's done with a gun, 9 out of 10 times will be a human. At least it will be an ape. Right? So, in your case, with your codons and how it leads to an intelligent designer, prove that this intelligent designer even exists.
Well, I think Peter's actually making a valid point.
If you cannot do that,
so Antangelo,
if you cannot do that, then your equation falls flat.
So Antangelo,
you need to find something better.
Antangelo, you haven't been answering the question.
Let me respond. Let me respond to Peter, then you jump in.
Well, you've been trying to respond for like the past 10 minutes, and you've just missed the point of the question. So I just want to clarify the question.
No. I want to respond to Peter.
Well, I want to make sure.
If you see a body on the floor with a bullet in the chest, then you do not presume right from the beginning that we are talking here about a murder case. It can be two or even more hypotheses. It can be that a murderer was actually acting and killed that person. It can be that that person somehow did suicide
and had an accident. We have three possibilities.
Can I finish, please? And eventually, the gun was carried away by someone, but it was still a suicide.
You're missing the point. This is why I wanted to clarify. You're completely missing the point.
Eventually other possible causes. What I am saying is that you cannot presume right from the beginning that you have a murder case in front of you.
You're missing the point, Antangelo.
You have competing.
TJump, let him finish because he's hanging himself right now. Let him finish.
Okay, so you have different competing hypotheses, and based on the evidence, it will lead to a murderer as the best explanation in regards of that event.
No,
so we are not starting.
No, you don't. 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 If you have no, you don't.
We just start with the evidence you don't. There is someone killed on the floor.
Can we stop? Can we stop?
That's it.
Stop.
No, you don't. You just invoked that it could have been a suicide. You just invoked that it could have been an accident.
I have to interrupt for 2 moments, Peter. Everybody tune it down like 2 levels. I'm getting messages. This is getting really loud. Just tune it down like 2 levels.
Okay.
You guys have been talking past each other for like 20 minutes. Let's just try to get back to the point here. So Peter's argument.
Hold on. I need to point this out because he just said that there are more possibilities. If we go with the evidence, we go the shortest path. If what happened was an accident or a suicide, then we come to a different result. You've just opened it up with your equivalence from the murder case and your codons forming that there are multiple explanations. We go with the simplest one, which is the one that doesn't need an intelligent designer, because we have a working hypothesis for that. Okay, and so you just prove yourself wrong.
So
okay, let me answer.
Wait, stop. You guys have gotten nowhere. You've said nothing and just gibberish the whole time. So let's get back to the point. Peter made a very good point here.
Go.
Peter's saying that if you have let's go with your murder analogy. There's a murder, and you want to say a unicorn did it or a leprechaun did it. Now, in the court case, those immediately get thrown out until you first demonstrate unicorns or leprechauns exist. So if we have a competing hypothesis of like DNA is a code, and we want to know what caused the code, if you want to say a mind did it, the only thing you can do is say a human mind did it until you demonstrate other minds exist. So until you demonstrate the other minds exists, you only have one option, that's humans, and that's it. So in a murder case, in order to demonstrate that something that has no basis in reality exists, like another mind outside of humans, you first need to demonstrate it exists with some kind of empirical evidence before you can say it's a possible contended explanation of the murder. So Peter's point was that until you demonstrate your God or whatever mind you think did it exists, then your hypothesis is by definition a less plausible garbage hypothesis. Because in order for your hypothesis to be true, we have to have the DNA, super complicated DNA, plus an even more complicated mind that designed the DNA, which we have no evidence for. So both of those must be true in your case. We have the DNA, complicated DNA, plus super complicated mind we have no evidence for. Now, in the natural hypothesis, we have super complicated DNA, plus natural processes we have lots and lots of evidence for. So given the two, to compare them, which one's the better one? The better hypothesis is we have lots of complicated DNA, plus a bunch of complicated natural processes which we have evidence for. Or your hypothesis, complicated DNA plus a super complicated mind we have no evidence for. So yours is a worse hypothesis using your own analogy of the murder case.
Okay, so let me answer to that.
Thank you. First of all, that was exactly what I meant. I'm responding to TJump. I'm responding to TJump. That was exactly what I meant, and that was exactly what he didn't get, and I doubt he gets it now.
Okay, so TJump, first of all, God's mind is not complex because it is not a physical thing made of parts. Now, secondly, you think that a natural non-intelligent hypothesis is a better explanation to intelligence. First of all, we know that intelligence, by our own experience, is capable of instantiating codes and giving meaning to symbols and words. But in regards of a natural cause, science is actually trying to explain in the last 50 years how the genetic code and the mapping and
Angelo,
the
you're not answering the question.
Yes, I am answering your question, and I would like to finish.
One sec. I want to clarify.
So I will,
Angelo,
no, you don't
if you miss the point,
I would like to finish. I want to finish.
I don't care. I don't care, Angelo.
No, you listen to my answer.
We're going to kick you to the audience, Angelo.
No, okay,
we're going to kick you to the audience. So Angelo, I'm going to interrupt you.
You don't play games
hold
with me. You don't interrupt me.
Hold up.
You don't interrupt me. I want to finish my answer.
Can we kick him to the audience? Because I got to be able to
Okay, yeah.
Angelo.
Yeah, bye, guys.
One at a time, guys. Come on.
You don't play games with me, TJump.
Stop.
You do this all the time.
Stop. Can you kick him off of the stage, Taco? Get him off of the stage. We need him to stop.
Okay, say what you're going to say, TJump.
We are going to interrupt you every single time if you go off topic and if you're deflecting to not answer the question. I asked you a very specific question. The question is, given two hypotheses, one that posits we have some data like DNA, which is really complicated. I agree, very complicated. And you posit something else, another mind, not a human mind. You're saying it can't be a human mind because you don't think it's human. You have to provide evidence for that. If you don't, it's just a fairy tale like a leprechaun or a unicorn. And you have to explain how that hypothesis, where a leprechaun or a unicorn with no evidence, is a better explanation than the natural processes which have tons of evidence. You going on a diatribe about DNA doesn't help us here. We need an explanation. Why is you positing a leprechaun a more plausible explanation than natural processes, which we have evidence for.
Go, Peter, but I want to say something.
In all fairness, TJump, we did get one thing. His God's mind is less complicated than ours. That's the first for me.
That's another interesting topic to go down.
Definitely we don't really want to be pushing people off the stage, although we also don't want to be interrupting each other. So, Tangelo, I'm going to request that you guys just go back and forth, and let's try not to interrupt each other like that.
Well, like I said,
I was distracted. I didn't really see who started that, but let's just not interrupt each other there.
Well, no. So again, we're not
put in all evidence points to DNA being physical. I'll put it back over to you, TJump.
So we can't allow diatribes.
If someone goes off topic, I'm with TJump on this.
We will necessarily stop them and be like, "No, you're just monologuing. We need to go back to the topic." So if he starts monologuing, I'm going to stop him every single time and bring it back to the topic.
Yeah. Same thing if he's asked the question and he's refusing to answer and just going to answer a completely different question that no one asked, then we should be able to interrupt. And it's not because we want to piss him off or whatever. It is just to keep the conversation on track.
So Enricus the Great, evolution of the genetic code. Just want to point that out. So there are natural means that we think that genetics arose and that it communicates.
Andricus the Great, welcome.
We have good evidence.
What a conversation, huh?
Hey guys, what a conversation. I was sad I had to miss Noted being up here. He and I are long time friends and nemesises, and
he's got his hand back up.
Oh, does he? We'll bring him back up.
Let's let you go ahead.
Andricus, first of all, let what TJump said. What have you got for us here?
Well, I just like to point out that what happens so many times, and TJump said it another way very eloquently, but I like to point out the incomplete inductive claims that these guys like to make. If they're going to say the inference they're making is very clear. If we see mind-dependent processes producing things like codes and all that kind of stuff, and we see things like that resemble in nature, well, they're going to say, well, we're going to infer that minds must be necessary for that too. But it's just an incomplete inductive case because, as TJump said, we observe all these things happening naturally that we don't observe direct mind involvement in. So it's just as valid an inference to make that whatever a human mind does, creates, is merely imitating what happens naturally in the universe. They're equally valid inferences. And I just don't understand why creationists have such a problem seeing it. Well, I understand because they have motivated reasoning, but I just don't understand why they can't make an honest inductive case by leaving out the other half of what we observe in nature. They do it all the time. It drives me crazy.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I say the inference that intelligence does complicated stuff, DNA is complicated, therefore it's done by intelligence, is a perfectly rational thing to say. But
yes, it is.
If we have further evidence, like novel testable predictions that have confirmed that natural processes can do many of the things by producing self-replicating RNA molecules or whatever, then that hypothesis now has evidence which has overturned just the intuition that we have that complicated stuff can be done by a mind. And so there's better evidence on the naturalist side. But I think that when we first discovered DNA and knew nothing about it, we just said, oh, look, this is a really complicated code and it makes all life. It probably was perfectly rational to say this was done by a mind and think maybe God did this. That's perfectly rational. But since then, for several hundred years, we've made pretty considerable progress in testable predictions done in the field of biology and chemistry that have shown the natural hypothesis is the only one making testable predictions in progress. And so it's the only one supported by the data.
Right. I also have an issue. I wish Noted can come back up here because I don't know if you see it this way. Do you see Noted's argument as being a compositional fallacy, TJump, when he says that you can't explain mind processes by physical explanations? He does this all the time, and
it is a composition division fallacy.
Like, yep, the analogy I make is I'm trying to be funny with this stuff just to make the point clear. Basically, Noted thinks that a tire can't be part of a car because a tire doesn't go beep.
Well, yeah, he's just making you can't get life from non-life, you can't get intelligence from non-intelligence, you can't get logic from non-logic. He's just, it's a composition division fallacy. Can't get water from non-water.
I've explained that to him a number of times, and the motivated reasoning that we run into when they get so like when you stopped Otangelo just now, because he was about to go into a diatribe. He was about to go into a complexity diatribe, which they always do, to say that you cannot. There's so much complexity. How could it possibly be? How can function be prescribed without intelligence? Is what they're going to go for.
Ignorance.
And of course, yeah, exactly. It's an argument from ignorance. That's exactly it. So. Anyway, that's all. I wanted one of them to be up here so we could have some fun, a little bit of fun, but I guess that part might be past. But thanks for letting me come up and just say that.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Was there something that you think you'd like theists to bring up and challenge?
I mean, I'd love any of the things that we've been talking about. I'd love them to bring up. A particularly interesting conversation I had yesterday with a pretty charitable Christian was the notion of, especially in the more evangelical circles, they bring up the notion of personal relationship with the disembodied mind of God, or this being that is out there somewhere. And when I've challenged many of them on it, and you will get some that will be honest and say, no, God doesn't talk to me. No, Jesus doesn't talk to me. I don't have actually any direct interaction with this being. And I just challenge Christians and theists. Why do you keep using terms that imply something that a human would understand as interactive and relational with a being, when that's not what we find or what we're able to achieve with that, in that system? I feel like it's just a dishonest tactic to say you can have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ when that relationship doesn't resemble anything that a human would recognize as relational.
Imaginary friends are relationships too.
Sure. Yeah. What's those studies that have been done recently that kind of supported some of Freud's notions that children assign superhuman qualities to everything around them, including creating invisible friends for their own psychological security? It just amazes me that we, as a human race, feel that it is justified to allow that existential security to continue into adulthood. When we, rather than facing, the existential dread of not having those answers for why we're here, what the meaning of everything is, all that kind of stuff. Rather than be a grown-up and face those fears down, we'd rather stay in that secure, childlike state. And the Bible even says that directly, which is kind of interesting, that you must have childlike faith and everything. I think there's a reason they say that, because as soon as you do try to face these things down with an adult mentality, it doesn't make sense anymore. But I would be curious to have a theist or a Christian defend why they use the language of personal relationship when it's really misleading, because that's not what we see or humans able to achieve in reality.
It's also an equivocation fallacy, because we normally use the word language or communication to mean species communicating with each other using sound waves.
Well, so my biggest problem with people like Otangelo is that he'll have a double standard, and we've pointed this out to him for the past 2 years. When it comes to scientific explanation, he wants evidence for everything in the process: the ingredients, the processes, the observations, the people involved. He needs a scientific paper with every single detail. When it comes to his God creating, he will say, I don't need that evidence. I can just make the claim. I find that inherently dishonest, and this is why I push back on Otangelo the way I do.
Totally. Well, I find it interesting that a lot of the theists and Christians that are online in these online forums, the ones that are pushing the logical, their quote unquote logical arguments, their reasons for thinking, I never hear them speak about relationship. I never hear them speak in emotional terms about the love of their creator. I always hear them speak in these pretty.
I hear them say it all the time, but we should try to get back to that topic with theists at some point.
Yeah. Well, that's why I would be interested if a theist or a Christian would come up here and explain why they use that language when we don't actually see evidence of that actually being possible or happening in reality.
That's a fair question.
I'll give one answer, because a scientist and a skeptic's job is to convey information, and the creationist and apologist's job is to sound technical.
Thank you, Enriquez, and welcome to Aquila.
I'm sorry, I kind of joined the chat a little bit late, but someone asked if you wanted someone who's a Christian to speak about why this religious thing has to be a personal relationship kind of thing. I don't know if I misheard.
Yeah, why the language of personal, why the words personal relationship are used when nothing about the interaction, if there is any, between a human being and this proposed entity actually resembles what humans would recognize as relational. And now, of course, you're going to have some Christians say, you're going to have, I don't know if it's going to be equal amounts, but you're going to have some Christians say they do talk to God and God talks to me. And then you're going to have some be like, no, God doesn't talk back to me. So I'm just interested in what the actual relational part is that would justify using the words personal relationship with God.
Yep. It'll be a 3-pointed thing. So like none of them will stand on their own, but there's 3 points I'll raise in respect to that. First of all, like, I don't know about other Christians, but at least for the Catholic Church, the definition of what heaven is, or the telos, or the goal of the Christian life is God himself. It's not like, Garden of Eden, flowing honey, or that. It's just simply God himself. Secondly, there's this, that God is utterly unchanging. So in the sense that he won't actually have a relationship with us because he's unchanged by creation, by our salvation, by anything like that. But so to actually, as it were, reach heaven, that is to enter into some sort of life with God, it involves a changing oneself. And that's just some way analogous to what we would say a relationship between people. It's like it's outside oneself. It isn't just a subjective, mental state. It's actually a participation in something external, which is God. So it's sort of this weird one-way relationship where the beatific vision, we actually get to see God not as we would, but as God sees himself. So, it's a personal, to me, relationship without him being affected by it in a weird way.
That was 2 things. Did you have a third thing?
Well, that was the 3 things. One was that the telos, which is what heaven is, that God is unchanging, and thirdly, that the change is in the Christian himself, not in God.
So what in any of those things, that's very analogous to something that somebody brought up when they tried to explain in a similar way that going to Disneyland puts you in personal relationship with Walt Disney is basically what you just described. And do you think a human would be justified to say that because they've been to Disney? I'll make even a broader one. If a human being is an American, they participate in the machinations of American government, they enjoy the protections of American law, U.S. law. Do you think that a human being is justified in saying they have a personal relationship with the President of the United States because they participate in the American experiment and all the benefits that are entailed thereof? Do you think that would be justified?
I mean, in some remote, weird, metaphorical, analogous sense, but not really. I mean, there, what you are is like interacting with the effects of the presidential decisions in some instances. And so you are kind of, you're not sort of living in a separate sphere or orbit or country, as it were, from the US presidential influence. I don't know if anyone in the world can claim that they're not influenced by the US president, but that's very different to saying, that would be like saying, I have a relationship with God because I interact with his effects, that is like the entire universe which exists. But that'd be a strange claim to say that I have a personal relationship with God because I look at the stars and ponder.
Yeah,
to me that's a bit
well,
weird.
that's one, and this could be a more Protestant problem than necessarily the more liturgicals. I don't know if they promote the same language, but you've heard it many times, I'm sure, that Jesus and God, believing all this, isn't a religion; it's a relationship. And
Yep.
I don't again, and as you've just described, I thank you for engaging with the analogy, because I think you agree with me that language is very misleading, and that language can set somebody up for a terrible sense of personal failure when they engage with the ideas, they engage with all the trappings of religion, the community, and all these things. But there's this one thing that at the deep core of them they can't achieve, and it can be. Let me tell you, as a person that went through it, that grew up in it, it can be personally, emotionally devastating to a human being to be told that the most critical thing is this relationship with this thing. It's more important than anything else. And a person cannot achieve it in any such way that's understandable by a human at all. And what do you think? Do you feel like, based on that perhaps the language should be changed on a fundamental level, and that language should not be used because it's so misleading and can set people up for such disappointment and emotional heart and trauma? Because that, as I think you've acknowledged, it doesn't resemble anything that a human would understand as a true interactive relational relationship with another being.
Yeah, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird thing. It's like because I don't know an awful lot about Protestants, except having interacted a lot with them on Discord, which is obviously quite limited and stylized. But I do think this kind of question of having a personal relationship with God can be a little bit funny from that perspective, because they have obviously works are not meritorious, like it's faith, something like that, just believing in God, and things like worship. It's like, what is worship? And like they'll say things like kneeling down or praying and all these other things are worship, but they don't actually change the relationship if there's one to begin with. To me, it's a bit strange. So I can only offer from my own religion, which is the essence of worship is, I guess you'd call it the internal life of God, where in terms of something accessible to us, what is the pinnacle of worship? It's God offering God to God, that is Christ on the cross offering himself to the Father. And then what is our worship then? It's not anything. It's like prayer is just prayer, kneeling is just kneeling, doing, all these other things. They're kind of almost like ego massaging, or this feels good, or it's like it's a sentiment, a religious sentiment of some sort. But I don't think a Catholic would call those things worship. Worship is once you're entering into something of the life of God, that is where, as a Christian, you have grace in your soul, and that grace is not just a psychological state or a sentiment or a belief. It's something which God gives to you. And then, so when a Catholic goes to Mass, you're not just observing what we believe to be like a sacramental representation of Christ's sacrifice on the cross, but you're actually joined to it. Like in some ways, you have something of Christ in you, and it's that desire of offering yourself to the Father. It's this entering into the eternal life of God, as it were.
This is all good. I understand what you're saying with all this, Aquila, and it sounds like you're describing what we described in the original analogy, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. A person is engaging with the concepts. A person is engaging with the paradigm, right? This still does not have any indicators of interaction with a being, with an actual being in a relational way. So I understand what you're saying, and I honestly think that you would not actually probably use those words in the same way that is promoted in other systems. I think you actually seem to have a bit of a conceptual issue with somebody saying it's like a one-on-one interactive relationship like you would have with another person. I don't think you would say it would be sold that way from your particular point of view. So yeah. I just, for me, it's a language that I wish the church in general would stop using, because it's pretty damaging to people when they can't achieve it in the manner that's sold to them. And I think you agree with me on that, because I would have no problem with them saying, hey, you can engage in the concepts, you can wrap yourself up in living the life as prescribed by the system. You can feel part of this larger thing and all that kind of stuff. And I have no issue with saying those kind of things. I just think taking the extra step and saying that you must have the same kind of thing you would have with a friend or a parent or a spouse or even a dog, that you know, a beloved pet, that you must engage in this kind of way with that thing is terribly damaging and dishonest.
I honestly don't see the difference.
I've got to say, it's this. So like, it's a very weird. It's a quick comment, because you mentioned that thing. Have a childlike faith or belief or relationship with God. To me, that's just being childlike, all that kind of thing. It sounds pietistic. It sounds repellent. But I have to say, it's like one of the weirdest kind of times of experience of practicing religion, where I'm just going to attribute like subjective psychological, not some mystical thing, but nevertheless, it was strange. It's like there was a time when I wasn't really interested in religion. I probably just went along with it because my parents, you know, they were European, and for them it was important they went to church. And so there I was, a young teenager, probably 13. I went along to midnight Christmas mass, and at the cathedral, and they have like a little statue of baby Jesus. And I was like, oh, gee, it's so kitschy. I hate all this stuff. And like, I just went, but I thought, I can just go along and be sullen and an idiot, or go along and actually go along. So, you know, this mass went through, and I was like trying to be sort of pious and devout as much as it was like kind of rubbing me up the wrong way. And at the end of mass, people started sort of filing up to the front to kiss the foots of this baby statue, this statue of baby Jesus. And I was like, and I thought, my parents are here. I actually came. I'll just go and I'll do it reverently. So I was walking up, trying not to like, you know, wag my head around like I was just annoyed. I was just trying to go up. I got there and I got to this statue, tiny statue that the Archbishop was holding. And I knelt down and I kissed the foot of this statue. And it was just, I would say you'd measure it in like milliseconds, not even 1 second. This sense of being loved or something, like, you know, like that sense, like when a girl finally says, I love you for the first time, it's just that sort of like flush of something or whatever. It was just like this extremely intense thing, just a moment. And I broke down weeping. It was so freaking embarrassing, where it got to the point where I was like wailing and bawling and making a lot of noise, and people were sort of like leading me away from the altar. It was just so embarrassing, but it was like at that moment, like I kind of, it was quite childish how I went up, where I was just going to be diligent, and I don't like this, I don't want this, but for my parents' sake and whatever, and because the Archbishop, and I'll just go up piously and do the best I can. It was just the singular most unusual experience I've ever had in my entire life. And I'll just put it down to psychological. I won't even attribute supernatural to it, but there is something for that simplistic thing. It just does something.
I appreciate that. I can appreciate that. TJump, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, relationship is just a feeling. So like, we could all be a brain in a vat, and the relationship is just you feel like you have a relationship. So it's not really like surprising to me they use that language. They feel like it's a relationship, so it's a relationship. So it's not really anything more than that.
Yeah,
an observation too.
But would you say, TJump, even if you were like a solipsist skeptic, for you to sort of relate to another person, where it's like you're starting to have like a common interest, like you actually care about what benefits them and what hurts them, and you suffer if they're hurt, and you rejoice if they, you know, get their degree or whatever it is. That is, for a solipsist, I imagine, an act of faith in relationship, that you're not just swimming around in your ideas and sentiments, but you're actually connecting to another person's fates, as it were. Like,
yeah, there's a feedback loop that's happening there, though, that I don't think you can demonstrate that it's happening in a person trying to interact with that quote unquote, God entity. We get feedback when you're actually in proximity with the person, or even if you're not, and we're doing what we're doing right now. You're interacting over the internet. There's a loop that's happening. There's a feedback loop. There's information that's flowing back and forth. And
it's just a feeling, literally just a feeling. That's all it means. Like, you could be in a brain in a vat and have absolutely nothing, and it's a relationship. It seems like a relationship to you because it's a feeling, and that's it. That's all it means.
Right.
That's not true. That
I just wanted people to understand that that's what you just said is not what's being sold when they use those words. It's
it is. It's usually just, that's what they mean, is just a feeling, because relationships are just feelings. That's all they are. And so they get the same feelings from their idea of a God as they do from friends.
I think Andricus is saying is correct, but there's one of the things that I think happens with, especially on the Protestant side of it, is the anxiety that you're talking about, that anxiety, the neuroticism that occurs, because, I mean, Protestants are the ones that are more likely to start using language that almost sounds like, what if God's not into me? As much as I think he is, kind of stuff. You will never hear this from Catholics. But when Protestants get to a stage, in most cases, right, the way the sales pitch is initially made to someone who's not converted yet is that enter into a personal relationship with Jesus and everything will be good. But once you've entered into that personal relationship and you start experiencing difficulties and you're wondering, why am I having these doubts? Why am I having these struggles? Why am I even questioning the love that this God, who's in a personal relationship with me, mind you, is directing my way? The words of comfort are that doubt, that struggle, that anxiety, that neuroticism is further affirmation and proof of the relationship you're having with God. That's how Protestants usually reconcile that. That's not usually forthcoming. That's, stage 2, stage 3, once you've been in a congregation for a while. So there's ways around it. They have ways around it.
Yeah. Acting in Catholicism,
that's all I wanted to mention.
Actually, in Catholicism, the motivation by feeling is actually quite negatively looked upon. Like, whenever you read spiritual writings, they speak of 3 ages or 3 stages of the interior life, and the first, which they call beginners, it is largely about where you say your prayers, or you do some fasting, or you do some charitable work, or give money to whatever. You get a good feeling from it, and that's kind of explained where if it wasn't for that feeling, you wouldn't be motivated. You wouldn't actually do it. This is just like the motivator for people who are just starting in their spiritual life. But that has to go. You cannot indulge it. You can't go and pray because it feels good. That's quite negatively looked upon. And
that's interesting, Aquila. That's so interesting because it's a... What's the greatest command in the Bible? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. I feel like just the opposite is the case. So we have this disparity of motivations that are being sold to us as being necessary to achieve this relational or this feel like you're actually doing the right thing about this. I just feel like it's so emotionally abusive. I just can't stand it.
Well, no, I mean, the way it's put is like
a personal relationship. Can I ask, if you were to learn that it was in fact a imaginary relationship, that the being did not exist, and yet you still could get those feelings from going through the rituals, going through the traditions, going through the motions, would you still do it?
Like, if I enjoyed religion, but I really didn't believe God was real? No.
Well, I guess that means that it's all going to hinge. That's really what I'm interested. I think most of the atheists or agnostics or deists, I want to know what can prove to us that this relationship exists. Because a relationship's a big thing. It means that you're communicating with them. I mean, as much as any girlfriend, husband.
Yep.
Well, it means you're being transformed.
Exactly the word I'd use. I'm open-minded to why you feel or think that way.
Yep. Anyway, I'll yield the floor, guys. Thanks for having me up. Those were the topics I kind of wanted to bring up. I think
it's a great
Thanks for coming up.
Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Now, Aquila, I'm sure I do see Nephilim and Marcella Fan in the audience with their hands up, but Aquila originally had a question, but Andricus, I guess, had a question for Aquila. So, Aquila, do you have proof for a god or goddess, or what's going on today?
Oh, may I just wrap up this thing on the spiritual life? It's like for like beginners in the Christian life, it's often said, seek the God of consolations, not the consolations of God. And so it is this kind of gradual kind of like trying to separate oneself from this attachment to good feelings and enjoyment of prayer and all this kind of stuff. And what they call the second stage proficience would be where it's motivated by the conviction that your goal is to see God himself, and all these other things, all these enjoyments, all these
That's
other
also
things,
a feeling.
that's not God. Yep. And then what they call the perfect, it's quite daunting and actually quite horrible in some way. Even as a Catholic, it's this sense where even the consolation of conviction is taken away. And so you'll often read in the lives of saints like great mystics or recent saints, they'll say, I can fully understand what it is to be an atheist, because to me, I live every day feeling as though there's no God whatsoever, but I persevere in just sheer stubborn belief. And it's kind of a horrible, like, why would you do it? Why would you do it? It's solely motivated out of the belief that there is actually a God, and it's better than anything else there is to pursue. And I don't know that many people make it there. I haven't. But it is like this. Often get accused like, oh, you just go to religion, go to church because it feels good. And I'd say that's probably true, but that's not why I would want to go to church, not for that reason. And so I'm still a beginner or whatever it is, and it's overcoming this, it feels good or whatever it is.
Those are all feelings. So when I said feelings, psychological states, it's the same thing.
Yeah, we can't escape our brains and our neurology. It's true.
Is that it?
It's just to wrap up the comment of the previous question I was asked. But in terms of, is there a God? Well,
not only is there a God, but what's your most convincing evidence that would convince us?
Well, evidence is for things that can be observed, that can interact physically, like an instrument or a sense. To claim God isn't that. So to claim there's evidence would be saying, I'm providing evidence for something which I don't think is by definition God, except by his effects. And God is, like, for me, my God is existence itself, and the evidence is that there is existence. Obviously, like I myself, or an helium atom or whatever it is, that is not existence itself, but everything observable has at least some existence. And I don't know that existence, like, why is there something instead of nothing? Why is there even, like me, the cogito ergo sum, why is there even that? There's no intrinsic explanation to it in myself. And so the belief I have is that classical, like the cause of existence.
Why do you think it's necessary for there to be an explanation for this?
I don't. I guess you could be like a solipsist, that in some way you're an eternal being. You could be a pantheist that say just material things just transform in their like natural laws, and transformations only occur at things like big bangs, and the rest of it is like interactions and, you know, conversion of kinetic to some other kind of energy. But ultimately it's like, well, do I choose to believe I'm eternal? Do I believe to choose that material things are eternal, or do I believe that there's just a simple eternal? Why you would choose one or the other, I guess.
Maybe I'll try to give you something to consider. Something rather than nothing. If we're taking a look at absolutely nothing, consider the idea of it. With absolutely nothing, that would mean that there are not necessarily any laws of physics or other kinds of restrictions on it. And so, based on that, if somebody was to presume that something can't erupt from nothing, from absolutely nothing, then that would be applying a rule to absolutely nothing. It would no longer be nothing. There would be a rule there, nothing that something can't erupt from it. And so, truly, absolutely nothing, we wouldn't be able to necessarily predict that something can't arise from it.
I don't know, because even just a possibility or probability or something along those lines is in itself something.
Sure. And I'm not saying that there's a probability of it. I'm just saying it's unknown. We really don't know if something could erupt from nothing. But I can't think of a reason why something could not erupt from absolutely nothing if if it really is absolutely nothing.
Yeah. But again, like even that could is something. Even if it in no way resemble what erupts from it.
Yeah, sure, but what I'm saying is here is a possibility that I'm suggesting not be overlooked.
Yeah, it's just like in terms of the concept of nothing. I mean, as a materialist, that would be easier to hold that kind of nothing that can, in some way, bring forth something. And I've had these like ridiculous, like people saying to me, "But virtual particles come into existence all of the time out of nothing." No, they come in out of fields. Fields themselves probably can erupt out of nothing, but the fact that they can, that possibility is something, and it becomes more and more esoteric. And it gets down to the level where it's just a conceptual possibility. It's something conceivable, but even conceivable things are something. It's.
I do think that's taking it a little bit far. Your point is not incorrect. Be careful with particles popping out of absolutely nothing. I would say a great way to phrase that would be to say it seems to be the case that that's happening. I think there's still a lot that's not known about that, and that's as far as I'd be willing to go. I wouldn't be willing to accept that that's necessarily what's going on. There could be some other driving force that we haven't detected yet. Herein comes the black swan fallacy. So that's why you'll hear a lot of people who work in scientific fields, pun not intended, since you brought up quantum physics there, that they'll preface things with "it seems to be the case that this is happening," instead of making absolute statements. And I think this is a really good way to go with it. And you're raising things about, hey, that could be something. Yeah, exactly. Something erupting from nothing is definitely a possibility as something. This is kind of more in the philosophical realm now, of course. And there are people out there saying that absolutely nothing doesn't exist. It's not possible. And that, again, is also an assumption. Somebody just mentioned this in the YouTube live chat, in fact. And so my response to that is that's an interesting assumption. It's because we're dealing with unknowns here.
I feel like that would be a logical possibility.
In some ways, it'd be definitional, wouldn't it? Like nothing, if you're equating it to non-existence, doesn't exist.
Well, I'm not equating it to non-existence.
Okay.
How do you dismiss that logical possibility, Aquila? Because and I'm going to preface your answer with, if there was nothing, no laws of logic, no laws of physics, no materials, nothing at all, there would be nothing to stop something as simple as like pure energy from popping into existence, right? Like,
this conversation
how do you
hurts
dismiss
my head.
that?
Like literally nothing.
I'm sure it does, but how do you dismiss that logical possibility?
Because nothing literally means nothing exists. There is no ontology. So it would literally be a logical contradiction for something to come from nothing. Nobody in physics or philosophy thinks that's a thing.
Yeah.
And I will put the
In fact, the one thing we don't have evidence for is nothing.
The Lawrence Krauss book that they often quote is just him writing a book trying to figure out how far we can go after creationists have been saying that atheists think we come from nothing over and over. So it's really tongue-in-cheek from a physicist, because that's who they often point to.
And I'm hoping to have a conversation with him really soon. So I will put him over the rake over that title of that book. He made it more problematic than it already was.
I mean, you guys here, some of you are atheist, right?
Pretty much all of us are. The only one who's a deist would be Jack Burton, but he doesn't seem to be here today. He's usually here.
Yeah. And so my question is, like, I'm just assuming, so forgive the assumption and, just obliterate it, but I'm assuming that you, in terms of like why there is at all, like why there's anything existing or why there's existence, it would come down to like some sort of cyclical, like Penrosian kind of cosmology of where ultimately it's like the universe or its iterations or different universes are in themselves just eternal, like they just are, or some sort of solipsistic position, one or the other. Would I be mistaken in that?
What?
Different atheists hold different views on things, but right off the bat, one of the biggest problems with the idea of there being multiple universes is it's only an idea. So there's no known evidence that there are other universes. But for the sake of being able to communicate effectively, we have the cosmos, which may contain our universe alone that fills it all up, or there may be multiple universes within the cosmos.
So yes, something exists. So either it started with a mind or a non-mind, but it's the exact same logic either way. And so whether you're a theist or an atheist, stuff exists. And where you think that stuff came from is going to be the same. Either it's eternal or it's necessary. Those are the two options.
Yeah.
I've actually never thought about the question why does something exist? It never came up for me. The only thing I was interested in is how. How did it come into existence? Yes, which is, and the why, I think the why is a silly question. The why is only interesting if there's a mind behind it, because the mind could have a why it is there. And that's a concept. Right? Yeah, that's a concept that I've never had. I grew up as an atheist in a predominantly atheist community in a 80% plus atheist country. So religion isn't really a thing here. And so maybe that's why I look at it completely different. I think the why is a silly question until there is something.
How did the water push the rock down the stream, right?
Exactly. And yeah.
It's the wrong question.
I gotta say, yeah, I agree. Because even as a Catholic theist, the question of why is not something you'll find in religion. In fact, because I was reading Aquinas on this a couple of weeks ago, and for God to have a why he created, it's almost like an extrinsic cause. Like he would have made humans so that is external to him. He's eternal, unchanging, perfect. He can't be motivated by anything outside himself. And so there's no why he created, why it came out this way. He just simply willed. It's almost like arbitrary, like I did it because I did it. Not even because I could do it. He just did it because he did it. And you say, well, then you ask, but why is there like humans and why is there, like for a Christian, incarnation of Jesus? So there's no why. It's just simply, it reflects something of the nature of God. So it's very ordered. The physical laws are very consistent as far as we can observe. There doesn't seem to be any true chaos. And things that they have some sort of existence, that they resemble God, but there's not going to be in God why he did it, which is very sort of weird, because I mean, like, I sort of knew that at the back of my head, but to read it so explicitly in Aquinas, yeah, it's like, well, I guess we'll never know exactly why, because there's no why.
Aquila, can I be cheeky? If God is perfect, then the why question would come up, because why would a perfect God decide to become imperfect by creating an imperfect universe, imperfect humans, imperfect DNA, imperfectness in the case of diseases? He made himself entirely imperfect the moment he created the universe. So that's where I would ask why. If you're perfect, why do you need this? Because you can't improve on perfection.
I guess if you make anything other than yourself as God, it will in some way be imperfect. Even if it's just a shadow less than what it is to be God, it'll be finite in some little way. That's already in some ways open to imperfection. And I don't know, it's like, I'm not going to complain that trees get, fungus and they might only live 800 years or 2,000 years if there's some sort of weird sequoia, or some only live like 15 years. Is that actually an imperfection, or is it just to see it for what it actually is? And that we get cancers. But the fact that we get cancers and that we can suffer, is that an imperfection, or is that just truly what we are? Colonies of cells that are sort of competing and sort of cooperating.
You're missing the point I made. If everything is created by a God, God who's perfect, who doesn't need anything, then decides to create imperfection, by definition becoming imperfect right then, because a perfect God would only settle for perfection. So why would a God make himself imperfect? Doesn't make sense.
He's kind of unchanged by his creating. He's just still God.
Don't bring up unchanging, because if you're going to bring up unchanging, I'm going to bring up the Bible, and I'm going to point out how many times he changed his mind, and
I'm going to reply that these are analogies or metaphors, because I'm not a scriptural literalist.
Can we go back to the topic now? Evidence for God exists,
Yeah.
instead of like textual criticism stuff.
Well, that things exist.
Things do exist.
Yes, things exist.
And it's like, in terms of like, you attribute it to the things just existing forever, or I'm just subjectively existing, imagining these things forever, or there's a God that exists forever. Take your pick. I can't really say why there should be more weight on one or the other.
It also
my biggest problem is
science. One of my big problems with especially creationists and young Earth creationists, not only can they not answer why questions, which once again science, so I won't fault them, they almost can never answer how questions. So if you believe in science, you can answer, even as a theist, how the diversity of life came about. Yet when I ask them how a goat came about, it is God poof goat. That is the model.
Yeah.
We've been talking to a killer for a while.
Strange, but I'd have to say,
next speaker.
But I'd ask you, is evolution contradictory to poof, God created it? Because I mean, like, I don't know about these. I don't understand these young Earth, 6,000-year-old Earth kind of people. But God from all eternity, he wills, like, he just wills it. And that means it's simultaneous, like, from eternity. And so if you take the entire history of the entire cosmos, I'm not even saying universe at this point, but the entirety of the cosmos, all of it, time, its physical things, its causalities, all that, poof, all willed at once. And then, but to him, it's like a static thing. But to us, we experience the passage of time, where other things, like the larger the body, the less subjectively, if that's even a right term for like a non-animate object, like a black hole, the less time they experience.
I look at it exactly from the opposite side. I mean, there's nothing conflicts with God having created the world as we see it, even with abiogenesis, with evolution, with everything. God could have created set things up so that would happen. He could have set things up for the Big Bang, or set things up to create a situation where in the end we would get to a situation where a Big Bang would occur. That all of that is possible. My question is, why would we for what do we need a God? Because for as long as people have been around and have been doing science, we've never come across a single thing that would need a God in order to explain it. Not a single thing. And every single thing that they attributed to a God, a lot of it has been disproven by science and has been proven to have purely natural causes. So the realm in which God is operating is becoming smaller and smaller.
We're still stuck on doctrine.
I don't see you.
Can we get to the topic? Like, evidence of a God. Do we have any? If not, can we move to the next speaker who gives us evidence of a God, like not doctrine stuff.
I just want to quickly respond to Aquila. Like, the people who are coming up with the 6,000-year-old thing are often just parodying idiotic ideas put out by people like Ray Comfort and Kent Hovind and others who are making a lot of money. Some of them are making a lot of money putting those ideas out, and it's an education system failure is the way I see it, because there's people are learning to start very young to not trust science, to distrust it, and then these that creates all these opportunities for these scam artists to do this. It's unfortunate, it really is. Most of the Christians I know are not believing in a 6,000-year-old Earth, but there are some Christians who really do believe this.
Yep. But I mean, the point I was just going to make is God creates the entire cosmos, its entire history, instantaneously, like all at once. But every single point of time in that entire cosmos is connected to the previous in some orderly way. Now, we could describe that connection, laws of nature, at least in the local cosmos that we can observe. And so, like, evolution of species, abiogenesis, these are the connections of humans now to, say, life forms 1 million years ago. It's that orderliness of that entire thing, which doesn't change in some ways. It's like the past won't change, the future won't change, but it's all connected orderliness, so we can do science. But it doesn't negate the fact that there's science, that there is this thing that is created. So why would you appeal to a God? The emotional thing, yes, largely. I mean, we cannot escape our neurology, but in terms of why would you choose to be a solipsist? It's an extremely boring position, and it's extremely narcissistic in a way. It's like, I'm doing science to learn about myself. You're more materialist. It's more objective. You're actually studying the universe to study a universe, and you can do your own psychology and epistemology. Like, is my perception of the universe reflective of the actual universe?
Do you have evidence?
Aquila. Sorry, Aquila, thank you very much. I'm just going to... Beamsy made a quick comment in our YouTube chat. He was stating that 6,400 years age of the Earth's the universe stems from a 17th century monk who tried to add up all the ages used in the Bible. So good effort on his part. Again, it's doctrine based. So we got to probably start moving on to other people in the audience. But
can
go
I
ahead.
ask one more question, Randolph? Can I ask Aquila one more question?
Ask one more question.
Aquila, so from what you have been saying, I think you're a pretty rational guy. So and you're not someone who rejects science. So for you personally, what does the addition of a God in all of this? What's the benefit?
There's more things to think about, because being a solipsist, you're just interested in your own psychology. I think you should be interested in your own psychology and epistemology and what it is to subjectively perceive something which you believe is objectively out there in the universe.
Sorry, that wasn't my question.
I'm getting to it.
What
I'm just doing like a two-step to get
add?
to it.
Yeah, what does a God add?
Okay, so beyond just subjective to objective studying the universe, you're studying more. If there's more to think about, there's more to understand. And then adding God on top of it, it adds even more to consider in terms of ultimate teleology of things, of the ultimate cause of things, of the ultimate, that there's a certain ultimate, like why things are so consistent, like everything's coming from one source.
Okay, this
So
is a good
God.
thing. Hold on. I have a question about that.
Oh my God, no! Let's
Why
stop.
would you?
We haven't had a topic in like
No.
5 minutes.
We're coming to where you wanted to go, TJump.
It can just be a physical thing.
I wanted
no
to move
more.
on to another guy, just a different person.
Hold on. Hold on. And I'm going to lose my train of thought. So you want to add on something for which there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever, and a lot of people have made up different gods to put in the place where you have put yours. I'm still waiting for why would you do that, and what's the addition to anything to just make something up and then put that at the top of everything.
Well, no, it's not making things up for the sake of making things up. It's looking at actual existing things, the existence that we experience. It's looking at reasonable.
What do we experience? Okay, but what do we experience that points to a God? How do we experience God? Because we don't.
That just points to a natural thing.
Hmm?
That just points to like a natural thing or a physical thing.
Yeah, but my question is,
we were going to move on.
The
we were doing good, and now we brought it back.
That we know people make up. A lot of gods have been made up, and we're not sure if yours is made up. I'm sure you're not. Why would you add something for which there's no evidence on top of everything just to have more to explore?
For the same reason, one would rather be a scientist than a solipsist.
Yeah, but scientists don't invent things in order to go and explore them and then find out that it doesn't exist because they invented them.
Yeah,
which is the thing, which is the case, which has been the case for every single god in human history so far.
Okay. So scientists have the belief that there's actually a cosmos out there. And that that belief opens the world to just beyond studying oneself subjectively.
No, they don't
and
have
the belief
a belief
that there's God out there.
They don't have a belief that there's a cosmos out there. They go by the evidence and figure out how far they can look. And currently, that is Planck time. And we can't look past Planck time. We can't see what's beyond Planck time. So they don't have a belief that there is an entire cosmos or multiverses or whatever. Those are our hypotheses to try and explain. And with the evidence that we currently have, we have no evidence for a God.
There's no evidence that you're not a brain in a bottle.
No,
but
I'm
not
proposing,
we're not doing that. I'm pulling up Nephilim. All right, just for everybody in the audience, we're not doing this brain in a vat nonsense. All right, Nephilim Free, come on up. You've been in queue for a while. These guys are beyond the brain in a vat stuff.
Well,
so don't
we've talked
throw
to
that
Aquila
at
like
them.
6 or 7 times. He always goes to this hyper skepticism. Like,
good afternoon. Nephilim Free, welcome. Thank you for joining us. What do you have for us today?
Oh, a little of this, a little of that. Just about anything, really.
I would like.
Do you have evidence for a God?
Yes, I think so. I think everything is
Great.
evidence of God. I think there's no thing that isn't evidence of God. I think the properties of everything require God.
Why?
They would be.
Why?
Well, why? Well, because of the properties of the thing.
Why? Why?
Well, you mean it's not a why question. You mean what?
It is a why question. If you say the properties require God, then my question is why. And if you then say because of the properties, that's not an answer. So I'm going to ask why.
Okay, well, I'll give you an example. Why? Because, for example,
someone just typed in the side chat why because.
So
great job,
for example,
Maya.
When it comes to biological systems, it requires the existence of biological systems is based upon the properties of mind.
No, it's not.
No.
Excuse me. Well, it does. That's what modern
according to our observation, it isn't.
Life.
I'm still waiting for the why.
Well, I like that argument. I'm gonna go with Neff's argument here and say life is a product of the magical potato, and it's just necessarily life is just made of magical potato, and you can't have life unless there's a magical potato. Therefore, magical potato.
No, what I was alluding to is the fact that modern biological science has discovered that, for example, the DNA molecule is a four-dimensional overlapping nested, highly compressed forward and reverse reading.
Yeah, which is made by RNA, which forms spontaneously.
Find another gap.
So we still don't have a why.
Right? You going to talk over, or is this? I thought maybe I could actually find people that would talk.
I asked a really simple
I want
question.
I want to know what the 4D means.
My point.
What does 4D mean?
Are you going to let me make my point, or is this just going to be a gangbang?
A gangbang, but what is 4D?
Your thing, and then answer TJump's question.
We're not doing a gangbang. I'm in a relationship. I'm in a relationship. I can't have a gangbang with strange people.
Nephilim and Peter, both you stop. We're gonna have a back and forth, one at a time. Nephilim, say your thing, then let TJump ask his question, and then Peter we'll just go back and forth. We'll take turns if we have to. We'll do round robin, whatever it takes to have an organized conversation here.
All right. So as I was saying, so modern science has discovered that the DNA molecule is a highly compressed, overlapping and nested sequences of information, four-dimensional package of prescriptive functional information that operates algorithmically and possesses the human language properties of phonetics, semantics, punctuation, syntax, grammar, and epibetics. Okay, now these things, prescriptive functional information, algorithms, and the semiotics of linguistics require mental properties. They require forward thinking, and chemistry can't participate. You can't prearrange necessary conditions for itself in the future, then interact with them in the future. Chemistry has no participation in the future. All chemical interactions take place only in the present moment. There are none happening in the past. There are none happening in the future. There are those that have happened in the past and will happen in the future. But all chemistry is molecules encountering each other in the present. So there's no forward thinking in chemistry.
Okay, we've debunked that already. But what is 4D?
Requires that.
What is this 4D cell thing that you keep mentioning? What is 4D? What are the four dimensions?
The fourth dimension is time. Three physical dimensions that make provide for the space of the molecule.
DNA only exists in the present, so it doesn't exist in the future or the past, just like you said.
No, it has information that is expressed for future activities.
Everything has information. Particles have information. Information is a physical process.
Well, but DNA has information which operates in the future. Yes.
DNA has the exact same information as everything in physics.
Be talking over constantly. Yes. Then can I respond?
No. So DNA has the same information as everything in physics.
Find somebody who's stupid and talk to them.
Okay. Well, we did. We've accomplished that.
Yeah. Try again next time. See, when I come in here, you guys, that's all you guys ever want to do.
Don't call people stupid. You guys are having a back and forth. Let him respond, TJump, and then you can yell at him.
Well, his response was that DNA has information. I'm like, yeah, everything in physics has information. Okay, not evidence of a god.
Yeah, he made a statement that wasn't, but like he's not really building any case. He's just making statements here and there, and then saying things about God that's unrelated. I'm not convinced at all, but I'm with you.
I really wasn't able to.
I'm still waiting for why we need a god.
Me too.
So other than this is very complicated, I don't understand it, therefore God.
No, that's not it at all. As I've said, the mental properties that exist in the DNA is evidence of its design by an intelligence. It's
what mental properties in DNA?
Properties.
Forward thinking.
You're saying that DNA
doesn't think
forward to what will be needed for the next generation?
Well, no. Say, for example, the algorithms that operate in DNA. They're information search and replace algorithms.
Those aren't like computer algorithms.
They're more sophisticated computer algorithms.
They're not analogous, though.
They are so sophisticated that computer programmers have taken algorithms, deciphered what algorithm, how it's functioning in DNA. They're using them in software today.
Well, I want to.
So he's just equivocating.
Well, he keeps saying
No,
that this stuff can only happen in minds. I'd like to know which academic paper says that physical information can only happen in minds.
Information is not physical.
Which academic paper in biology says that? Could you give me reference?
No, you wouldn't get information theorists to tell you that.
Well, information theorists like Claude Shannon, the guy who wrote information theory and literally says information is a product of stochastic systems. That one?
Well, his type of information that he described, which is Shannon information, but DNA is not Shannon information, it's prescriptive functional information.
Oh, so you're making up a new kind of information that no one in biology agrees with. Do you have like any papers in biology that show that DNA has this whatever you think information is? Which paper?
Prescriptive functional information would be like the instructions on how to assemble a bicycle.
Which
it tells you what parts are to be arranged.
I don't want a definition.
It's prescriptive.
I don't want a definition. I want a paper, a biological paper, a paper in biology that says DNA can't happen by natural processes. Like which paper in the field of biology shows the information in DNA can't happen by natural processes?
Yeah, the paper is titled Dichotomy in Information Systems, published 2012, Abel and Trevor.
Say it again, louder.
Pardon?
Say it again. I couldn't hear you.
I'm pulling it up right now. I'll link it in chat in a moment.
Yeah.
Well, but
was that by DJ D Unforo?
No.
David J.
Mental
D.
properties.
Onofrio?
Could say the title again slower, Nafi, so we can type it in and Google it.
Okay, just a moment. I'll pull it up.
No problem.
I'm looking at my sources for it.
Can we play some Jeopardy music? Do 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 do.
I just sent it to you, TJump. I think that's it.
Burp.
I could be wrong though, but I think that's what it is. I'm sending it to Nephilim.
Okay, I'll even if I
can. Is that it, Nephilim?
Do so. It's called Dichotomy in the Definition of Prescriptive Information. Suggests prescriptive data and both prescribed algorithms.
Check your DMs, TJump. That's in your DMs. I already found it.
Systems.
Link it in chat right now.
Okay.
Okay, where in the paper? Because I've read, so I've scanned through it. It says nothing about requires mind.
They state, and I'll quote them: choice contingent causation and control (CCCC). Metabolic pathways and cycles would be impossible to integrate into a cooperative and holistic metabolism. The organization principle, capital letters, states that non-trivial formula organization can only be produced by choice contingent causation and controls. And that's exact. They state that the functional information of DNA is in fact programming logic gate programming choices and choice contingent causation and control. These are properties that require intelligence. See, so that's what modern science has discovered about organic life, about DNA. It's not 1850 anymore. It's not 1925 anymore. It's not even 1970 anymore. Today we have a far more advanced level of biological science. And what's been discovered is that DNA is in fact the package.
So I'm reading here, it says those are a product of natural processes. There's no mind involved. The choice has nothing to do with the mind choice. So I'm not
in the paper that I provided.
Well, I'm looking at it here. There's no mental choice. Where does it say mental choice? Because choice here is just a biological choice.
So tell me, how then do choice contingent causation and controls arise?
Natural physical processes, no mind.
Choice
I'm missing the mind part. Yeah, choice as in a physical, biological process like natural selection.
And logic gate programming choices.
Natural selection. Chemistry. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, you heard it here, guys.
So where in the paper does it say mind is required for this? I'm missing that part.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say it again. Logic gate programming choices and choice contingent causation and control.
Yeah, I read that part. That part says natural processes, natural selection. So where does it say mind?
No, it doesn't say that in the paper, but
it does.
But that is the evidence right there.
Okay, so that is caused by natural selection. So where's the mind?
It doesn't. I'll quote them again. The organization principle, capital letters, right, states that non-trivial formal organization can only be produced by choice, contingent, causation, and control.
Right. I already debunked that. So that is natural selection. Choice contingent is natural selection. Those are synonyms.
No, natural selection doesn't make choices.
Yes, it does.
It's just what happens. Natural selection is simply the fact that if something is beneficial, it may continue. If it's not, it may be weeded out. There's no choice involved.
Where in the paper does it say that isn't natural selection? Because it says it
doesn't choose an organism. There's no choice.
The environment is the selector, always.
Yes, the environment is the
natural
selector.
There's no choice. The environment doesn't choose one organism.
Yes, it does. That's what natural selection literally does.
One survives because they're suited for the environment, and the other does not. The Earth doesn't say, I like that one. I'm going to let that one live, and I'm going to take this one out. There's no choice involved. See, no choosing.
And that's the point. It's not a mind.
It's simply survival or non-survival, but it's not the Earth choosing anything.
So again, you need to show where it says that can't be done by natural processes, because the paper doesn't say that. It does not. I'm reading the paper. Statement. It never says not natural processes.
I'll read it for you one more time.
No, reading the same sentence doesn't help, Neff. I've addressed that sentence. So you need a different sentence.
They state, now I quote them, the organization principle, capital letters.
That's what we're addressing right now, Neff.
Organization can only be produced by choice, contingent, causation, and control.
Right. And Neff, choice contingent can be done by natural processes. Show me in the paper where it says choice contingent is not done by natural processes. Where does it say that in the paper?
Natural selection is not
you not understanding the word choice is not an argument. You simply saying, oh, it says choice must mean mind, isn't an argument. Where in the paper does it say choice equals mind?
Okay, so I'll try to explain one more time. Your mistake is thinking that natural selection is a choosing
Where
process.
in the paper does it say choice equals mind?
It's a happenstance.
What?
Occurrence. That's all.
Where in the paper does it say choice equals mind?
I gave it to you.
No, you just said where it says the word choice. I need a definition of choice that says must require mind.
The statement implies that mental process.
No, you don't get to imply things based off of Neff's interpretation. Where in the paper?
You just have to explain. I'm sorry, but it's just what it is, TJ.
No,
you have to be able to.
You're not understanding the word. So the argument is Neff thinks choice means mind.
Tell us how natural selection prescribes things. How does that happen?
Through natural selection, does that through the survival of the fittest. There you go. Things that survive.
That's not prescription. Prescription is setting up something that's going to be necessary in advance for an intended purpose. That's to prescribe. So how does natural selection do that?
It does it the exact same way I just mentioned. So again, nothing in the paper says that this is a mind. So the paper you listed does your conclusion.
Where is there natural selection in chemistry that's able to make?
Remember what I originally asked? I asked you to give me a paper that says DNA can't come by natural processes. This one says it comes by natural processes. So do you have a paper that says it can't come by natural processes?
I gave you the statement in it. What I'm asking.
No, the statement supports my position, not yours, Neff. So this paper is proving me correct and you incorrect.
I claim otherwise. Okay.
Well, I'm sure you do,
so
but that's why I was asking for you to provide support for your claim. I wanted you to provide support for your claim, not just reread the exact same sentence.
So you're welcome to interpret the paper the way you see fit. Okay. But my question to you is, how does natural selection create choice, contingent, causation, and control?
Natural selection does it through physical processes.
Chemistry do that? How can chemistry do that?
Natural selection, survival of the fittest, does it fine.
Natural selection is the observation that a thing will survive because it's suited to the environment.
Correct.
It's not a choice being made. It's simply what happens. That's all it is. There's no mind involved in natural selection.
Right. That's right. That's why there's no mind involved in evolution. Correct.
So
you don't.
How does natural selection create prescriptive functional information?
I literally already answered that question. So I'm reading from your paper. Conclusion. Since there is no mechanism for control, there is no contingency for RNA to execute any kind of algorithm process. You don't need that. You do not need
algorithms do exist in DNA. TJ.
So your own paper that you listed contradicts you. Do you have anything else?
No. Science is published over and over. DNA operates algorithmically.
That's
You
great,
should know that.
which is done by a stochastic system.
Okay. So tell us, how can prescriptive functional information?
I've already answered that, Neff. You asking the same question is going to get the same answer. So I've debunked you. All of the evidence, everyone in biology agrees. You don't need a mind for this. You making stuff up and liking to read the word choice doesn't help you.
Natural selection can do it. You threw a blanket over it. You didn't answer.
What? Natural selection does it. It selects certain patterns over other patterns and makes them work to make things in the future. Like DNA makes a person or a child or a deer in the future because it's been programmed by natural selection. That's the answer.
Programmed?
Yes, programmed by natural selection.
Doesn't program. You're making all kinds of errors, TJ.
Yes, it does.
Natural selection doesn't program anything.
Yes, it does.
It just is the occurrence that something continues because it's suited to the environment. It's not the Earth isn't choosing anything. Natural selection isn't a choice. Okay, it's just what happened.
Natural selection program, biology. Do a search for this. Find a paper on the exact same site.
How does prescriptive information arise by natural chemistry? How is it possible?
Because the ones that don't have information that leads to a successful organism die, and the ones that do have information that lead to an organism survive. Therefore,
that would be just no. That's not prescribing anything.
It is.
See, I can write the instructions for. If I design a tricycle, I can write the instructions on how to assemble it. That's prescriptive functional information. It has a function. It prescribes the order in which that machine will be assembled for an intended purpose. That's what you have to be able to explain.
Right. So I've already debunked you, Neff. Do you have any papers that show that you need a mind? Because I've debunked this one. This one doesn't show that.
Observe that he thinks natural selection is a mental process.
No, I never said that. So it's a physical process. There's no mind. No mind. No mind is involved in the creation of life. Life does purely by natural process.
It's not choosing anything. You admit finally natural selection.
No, you can define choice in many different ways, Neff. You not understand the definition is irrelevant. So again, I need you to give an example of a paper that shows that the information in DNA can't come about by natural processes, because everyone in biology disagrees with you now.
He has contradicted himself by admitting that natural selection is not a choosing process.
No, you can define choice as a thing done by a natural process, like the river chose to go left. Congratulations.
Oh, he's contradicting himself again. He's
Neff, you straw man position, we're just going to kick you out. So I told you the answer. The answer is correct.
TJ, I've done what I needed to.
I've debunked you, Neff.
Contradict yourself.
My normal example about how the environment selects is if you have a green and a blue butterfly that are flying in a forest, and it's a green forest, then the hawks just naturally pick off the blue butterflies till you're left with only green butterflies, and that is a selection pressure.
Right, but it's a selection pressure perhaps, but it's not choosing. There's no mind involved.
Yes, it does. Neff, the word choice doesn't require mind. Google the dictionary definition of choice. Nowhere does it require mind. You can use choice to mean a thing that happens in nature. You not understanding how the word choice works in English isn't an argument. It's just your own ignorance.
So DNA is prescriptive.
No, I've debunked this.
It's a mental process, not a chemical.
You've been debunked on this, Neff. Do you have a different argument? Because we've already crushed you on this one.
You have some other argument that, yes, some rational argument to explain the existence of.
You've never been a rational one, but you can try.
Okay. Well, I think I've made my point clear.
That you don't understand biology, yes.
Oh no, I understand that science
Clearly
has discovered that DNA is prescriptive functional information, which operates algorithmically and with semiotics.
I've already debunked that.
No, that's what's published in science papers left and right.
Right, that biology is done by natural processes and no God involved. The consensus in biology is God has nothing to do with it.
Okay, so TJump, here's the problem. You might find a biologist who writes that DNA does operate algorithmically. And they'll say maybe in that paper that it's amazing what natural selection, what evolution has done. It's created algorithms. Right?
Yeah.
I understand that those idiots will believe that.
Everyone in biology, literally the entire field of biology.
It doesn't credit the fact that what they've described and discovered is that DNA does, in fact, operate algorithmically. And they're just as wrong as you that natural selection is able to produce that.
So
that's the point.
We agree it operates algorithmically. One hypothesis is it's done by natural processes, which is doing all of the work, making all of the evidence, making all the testable predictions. And the other, hold up, 1 sec. So we have the scientists making predictions and doing all of the work work, and making all of the success models doing everything. And then we have your model doing nothing with a bunch of crackpots who make no progress in the field whatsoever. The one that's actually making progress is the one who gets the support, not you being able to say, "Oh, I can make up a sky daddy to explain this." That's not it. The evidence is when you make novel testable predictions and confirm it through results. Science does that. The naturalists do that. The sky daddy believers do not do that. So science wins.
Oh, no, that's not true. So there are plenty of theist scientists who do advanced science.
Not with intelligent design. The intelligent design movement has made zero progress.
Oh, that's not true. That's just the narrative from the atheists.
Okay, what's the progress they've made?
So let's just point out that the TJ has.
Wait, whoa! Don't deflect, Neff. If you're saying they've made progress, tell me what progress has intelligent design ever made?
Algorithms, and now he admits that DNA does possess algorithms. Wow.
No, I never said it didn't. It wasn't an algorithm, Neff.
When I mentioned
so you're strawmanning.
in DNA, you said they weren't.
Can you answer TJump's question, Neff?
Say they're all.
Neff, what progress has intelligent design proponents made in any scientific field regarding intelligent design?
Oh, well, they've developed nanocars out of molecules. Intelligent design proponents.
What does that have to do with intelligent design? So what have they made? What progress have they made? What novel testable prediction regarding intelligent design has been confirmed through results?
Do you think
that's
do you
not
think
a prediction?
creating?
Oh my god.
Okay, I'll try to answer if you want.
Nephilim, do you think that creating cars that are too small for people to ride in is intelligent design? Really?
Okay, so the nanocar technology that's has been and will continue to develop may lead to microscopic machines that can be injected into somebody's body to perform things like kill cancer cells.
Okay.
So it is progress in science. If you're going to say it's not, that's pretty silly.
How does that point to an intelligent designer if it is people designing things?
Because humans.
How do the intelligent design scientists come up with evidence for an intelligent designer by having people design things, which we already know that they do?
That's not.
And you can't even transport people in them. They're too small.
TJump's question to you was, what progress have they made in order to show that there is an intelligent designer?
He said that no intelligent design theorist has made any advances in science, which is
no, Neff. Peter was correct.
No, that's not what he asked. That is not what he asked. That is not what he asked.
What TJump said.
Neff, you've been corrected by multiple people here. What I asked was, I want, when you have two hypotheses, stop talking, Neff. Two hypotheses, intelligent design versus naturalism. The fact that some crackpot intelligent design person can invent a light bulb isn't evidence intelligent design is true. For evidence it's true, you need to use intelligent design to make predictions that are confirmed. The fact that some crackpot can do things while being an intelligent design proponent isn't evidence intelligent design is true. The naturalists who think that it's done by natural processes have made progress in that field. They say, if natural processes are true, we'll be able to find RNA molecules that are self-reproducing. Oh, we found those. That's confirmation of the hypothesis. We're not saying that they can't do anything at all. It's a stupid argument.
TJump, I have to apologize to you. I shouldn't have clarified your question, because now he realized what your question was and realized that he didn't have an answer for that. That's the moment he runs away.
Typically.
Always the same.
I just want to say thank you, Nephilim Free, for joining us. Who have we got next?
I pulled up Beamsy, who's been very patient.
Beamsy, thank you for joining us.
Now we've got a difficult one.
How are you doing? I know you've got something to say about absolutely nothing. How are you, sir?
No, it's more. First, I'll actually ask if my point of view is more relevant for this sort of discussion.
Was that a question?
Oh man! And I thought
Peter was trying to speak.
It's about absolutely nothing. Hi, Beamsy. How's it going?
Peter, sorry, I keep interrupting you. No, it's more of. Yeah, I'm a pagan. More particularly, I'm a Celt. So I don't actually have the aspects of what you would say as a god. So I've got nothing to actually prove towards that conversation. but I do have aspects of spirituality for the aspects of personality and where that comes from. I'm also a naturalist and a qualified geologist. So I don't know if I really fit in for your sort of discussion.
What kind of spirituality? What do you mean by spirituality?
There is a minor aspect. It's, for lack of a better word, well, lack of translation, it's called spark of the divine. It's the aspect of where the idea of a personality arises from.
Wow. Okay, could you explain, like, do you disagree with neurology, cognitive science, and the physics is about how personality arises?
That explains about 80 to 90% of the idea of personality and where the individual comes from. And there's a minor part in which I'm still unsure about, but that's my own personal thing, and I don't know if it fits in for your sort of conversations. That's why I'm asking. If it is, we can continue on with it. If not, I'll just back out and let someone else who is in for the conversation.
Well, like, do you think it comes from, you said you're a polytheist, right? Heathen?
Formerly a polytheist, but I've come to the realization that the aspect of the gods cannot exist because anything that actually operates within reality has to be explained by reality. So that's why most of the Celtic beliefs have been changed in that aspect, because the gods that were represented were just explanations to natural causes. But the idea of the spark of the divine is it's a minor part that exists outside of reality that influences the start of a personality, not just within humans, but in all living things.
So does this exist outside of known physics?
Yes, that's why I'm a bit unsure if it is an actual thing or not, and that's why I'm open to it.
Okay, and what is it exactly that you're open to? What is this thing that you describe more about it? What does it do?
It's basically an energy concept that exists outside of our own reality, and part of it comes in at the start of our existence and starts the personality into what we are.
So kind of like a soul, essentially.
Not in the exact sense. It's in the same way that a spark can start a fire. That's kind of the best way I can describe it without speaking in Gaelic.
Sure, that's fine. So it's like a mini soul that's somehow outside of like known physical reality, and it enters into us at some point in conception, I imagine, right? Or like when our brain forms of some kind near a brain, something.
Kind of like that, yes, but it's probably the easiest way to explain it without, like I said, without resorting to Celtic.
Yeah, and why? Why do you believe this thing is needed to explain anything?
More of a personal experience. How graphic do you allow onto this channel?
Please don't get us banned from terms of service.
No, it's not terms of service, but it's what happened to me was quite brutal, and that's why I ask how graphic do you allow.
Well, as long as it doesn't violate the terms of service on Twitch or YouTube, and probably fine.
I think just giving an overall quick summary would be sufficient.
Okay, that's easy enough. Basically, I served in the Australian Navy 16 years ago. I was caught in some sort of explosion which completely rattled my mind and my body, and I have no memories from before those events. I've been told that my personality is insanely different to what it was from before those times, so I still question the aspect of where the personality and that originally sparks from.
Why would that not be explained by physical damage to your physical brain without any spiritual thingy? What do you call it?
Because there is no physical damage.
What do you call this soul thingy?
It's just called the spark of the divine. It's not something that actually is what you would refer to as a soul. A soul is something that enters with its own personality. I was looking for a name I can refer to it. Yeah.
So the spark of the divine. So why, like you said, you were in a accident of some kind. What was it? An explosion?
A lot of trauma.
Yeah, it was just an explosion, but it could have been an accident. It could have been an attack. Could have been an incident. Could have been just an oops. I don't know. I've never seen the after action report, so it's just an explosion.
Okay, so if it's an explosion, that'll cause shocking to your brain, and that causes brain damage. Like literally, if you take your hand and smack the side of your head, that will kill some brain cells. So any physical shock to the skull will cause brain damage.
Yes, I had the concussive effect, but I haven't actually had any of the injuries that are concurrent to that.
What?
Through the brain scans that I've had. So it's not showing up on anything of why I don't have the aspect of memory or the change in personality, and that's why it's a bit weird to me.
Brain scans don't show that. So brain scans, like at most typical MRIs, show at the level of hundreds of thousands to millions of neurons. So they don't show anything unless you have a severe damage. fMRIs, which are the more accurate ones, can show the level of tens of thousands of neurons, but they only use that for like extremely specific things when they're like trying to measure very small neurons. And then we have ways to view a single neuron, but there's no in between. We get millions, tens of thousands, and a few, and that's about it. And so there's no way to measure the actual damage done from an MRI. The only thing that shows is for significant amounts of damage. So why would you think that because it didn't show up on an MRI, which doesn't have that high level of accuracy to know what was damaged or not, that there was no physical change to your brain whatsoever?
I'm not saying there was no physical change. It's just the aspect of, from what I was explained by the medical institute in which I was actually in, there is no physical explanation of why I have such a drastic change in both my personality and my memories.
Well, what percentage do we know about the brain?
No idea. I'm not a biologist.
It's extremely small. The brain is one of the two areas that we know the least about in any field of science. So the fact that we don't know what happened in your brain isn't that surprising. It's not particularly surprising. So I don't understand why the fact that something happened in your brain which caused a drastic personality shift would be like need this spark of the divine thing in order to explain it. For example, having an epileptic seizure can leave no damage to your brain whatsoever, because it's just random firings going on in your brain, and so your brain's operating as normal. It's just firing randomly, and so when it stops, it looks like your brain is normal. But it can cause completely drastic changes to your brain's chemistry and your belief systems. And so we know if there's lots of random firings in the brain, it can do lots of random things. And we have lots of examples of this, of people having seizures and different kinds of shocks and drug things that shock their personality and cause a complete personal change, but no physical damage to the brain. So it's not really surprising that that happened. And so why would we need this spark of the divine?
Do you have any reading on that? Because that's interesting. I think I need to do a lot of research before this. But do you have anything, a recommendation for it?
V.S. Ramachandran did a very phenomenal documentary along with his papers on the effects of epileptic seizures on the brain, and specifically its correlation to religiousness. In fact, people who have epileptic seizures usually say something very similar to you in that they think they've spoken or interacted with some kind of divine being, and so they're disproportionately more religious than the regular community. So I would Google V.S. Ramachandran epileptic seizures and religiousness, I think, something like that.
Yeah, two things. I will look into that because that's interesting. I should probably have done a bit more reading before I came onto here. And I think you're actually putting more emphasis onto what I refer to as the spark of the divine, because that only just starts the existence of our personality. It doesn't actually have any relevance to what changed my personality.
So I was just going off of what you said. You said the reason you believe in this is because you had a transformative experience, which was your memories are gone and you had a complete change to your personality. And you seem to be implying that this couldn't just be explained by the brain trauma, and it must be something else in addition to that.
It's because, like I said, I don't have enough knowledge about brain trauma. I haven't really read enough about it, so it's probably my own failings in that. So thank you for the reading.
Sure.
Beamsy, thank you very much for coming on. This was actually a very interesting topic. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's more of a personal aspect than more of a belief. That's where the problem arises.
Well, it's good that you have that clarity.
And as for when you said nothing, I think TJump could agree with this. When you hold your hand out, there's nothing in it on a philosophical stance, but in a scientific stance, you don't have nothing in your hand because there is still particles of air, and you've even got skin that is falling onto your hand.
I agree.
So in science, there is never nothing in the philosophical sense, but that's why it's very difficult to explain to people who use the word nothing. There's no philosophical sense of nothing in science, but there is a philosophical sense of nothing.
And this is why I always qualify it with the word absolutely in front. So absolutely nothing. As some people also refer to as ex nihilo, nothing.
And that does not exist in science. There's no concept of absolute nothing.
Okay.
If you remove everything, you've still got vacuum energy and quantum energy within the field. That's how things pop in and out of existence within it. That's a little complete different to the aspect of nothing.
Yeah, even in philosophy, the idea of a philosophical nothing is essentially impossible to imagine. So it's like a logical contradiction to try to imagine a philosophical nothing. And so, yeah, it's not really a well accepted concept in any field, science or philosophy.
Oh, so I was wrong. Sorry about that. I thought that the philosophical aspect of nothing did have an absolute nothing.
Well, they define it as an absolute nothing, but there's no way to imagine that. It's just the lack of anything existing. Nothing exists at any point of time.
I
No
think
time.
they're not being. I would have to say I think they're not being imaginative enough. But again, I'm not a professional philosopher nor a professional scientist. I'm going to defer to you, TJump and Beamsy, because it sounds like you're both much more well versed on this than I am.
Yeah, I'm sorry I misrepresented you, TJump, but the aspect of absolute nothing within science cannot exist. As I explained with the idea of creating a vacuum, you've still got vacuum energy.
Yeah, so at science, they don't even talk about concepts in that sense of absolutes. It's just pragmatic, what we can interact with. In philosophy, we talk about absolute philosophical nothing, but it's pretty much the hard stance that there is literally no ontology. Nothing exists at all, which is not really something we can imagine.
One thing I keep noticing you guys don't mention to a lot of the people that mention it is science operates under the three basal assumptions, and that completely discredits a lot of the idea, especially that stupid brain in the jar thing that they seem to bring up.
What now? Assumptions?
The three basal assumptions.
What basal assumptions?
The reality exists, we can understand reality, and we can actually learn something through our actions. Those three are the basal assumptions that are used within science.
I thought it was reality seems to exist.
The wording can be different, but yes, that's why they're referred to as assumptions.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think those are technically.
We have to assume that. Sorry.
I don't think those are technically assumptions in the sense that we just don't care. Like they're irrelevant to science if they're not true. So it just doesn't matter. So it's like you don't need to take those as assumptions. It's just those are questions more that you're not going to solve in a lab, and so scientists don't care. But they're not like.
That's why they're referred to as basal assumptions. Yeah, that's why they're referred to as basal assumptions, because they're always there, but they don't matter because these are accepted that we have to make them to operate within reality.
Well, that's the part that I disagree with. So in philosophy, you don't need to make those assumptions. You can do lots of philosophical work to try and give justifications for those positions, and it has nothing to do with an assumption. The way science just doesn't care about that topic, and so it's not interested, so it just doesn't make a difference. That's why it's an assumption, because it's like we don't care about this, so we'll just skip it.
Yeah, that's why I was speaking on a scientific term, not a philosophical term. I'm not much of a philosophist.
Philosophist, I like it. That's a good term.
Yes, I know. I don't even know the proper word for it. I haven't read much into it. I don't really go into philosophy.
So it sounds like we're pretty much come to have we've put quite a bit of time into this. Was there anything you wanted to finalize with Beamsy before we move on to our next guest? And thank you again for coming up and sharing your personal experience with us.
Well, I've just got to thank TJump for that reading, so now I've got a little bit more stuff to look into to see if I can come up to a better conclusion.
TJump has a lot of interesting content on his YouTube channel. I highly recommend subscribing to him as well. He's at youtube.com/TJump. There's a
I
lot
am
of...
sub to him. I am sub to him.
So you're already
a lot of his stuff.
I'm preaching to the choir then. Okay. Okay.
Do you have any last things you'd like to say?
No, it was just pretty much thank you for having me up here, and thank you very much for TJump to give me that extra reading, so that way I can look into it a bit more.
Yep.
Well, man, you rock. Thanks for coming up.
I'm going to go to the bathroom. Be back in a bit.
Too much information.
Good seeing you.
So we've got Zexus, and then Semper Paratus, and then Captain Coyote, and then maybe Barthologist still raises his hand. Who knows? It could get crazy.
Susie just disappeared on us.
Hello.
Hello, Zexus. Zexus? How do you pronounce your name?
Either is fine, but for the purposes of this, I'm just going to be asking a question, and then if it's fine, bowing out from there. I am an atheist. I've been chatting with a couple people here in the text chat for a while, and my question is probably one that you've answered before, that you've heard before, but just to verify, because I've always been very confused about why people bring up the idea of intelligent design and trying to disprove things such as evolution by natural selection, current scientific models, in the pursuit of trying to prove God. So I guess what my question is, and you can discuss this to whatever extent you feel is appropriate and then move on, regardless of the truth of evolution by natural selection, or even if it were proven wrong tomorrow, would that have anything to do to actually proving that a God exists or not?
Well, quite often I find a lot of theists or intelligent design proponents are conflating evolution that you mentioned with abiogenesis, and which I like to fondly refer to as the spark of life. They seem to put them together as if they're one. As I'm sure you already are aware, evolution explains how things change from a scientific perspective, whereas abiogenesis is about how life begins. And so they're quite often barking up the wrong tree, I find. So what happens, like Matt Dillahunty once mentioned that intelligent design is just creationism dressed up in a lab coat. And even though that sounds a bit flippant here, that is basically, to me, it looks like the same thing, but with just more focus on scientific argumentation than what creationism generally has. I'm not finding it convincing, but that doesn't really matter pertain to your question so much. I think what they're trying to do is find some kind of scientific explanation to justify that their God exists. I believe that's the intention behind it. And so they're trying to, from what I've seen, it looks like they just try to twist the science around and the understanding and take little bits and pieces and say, aha, there, that proves it. As Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about how God is in an ever receding pocket of scientific ignorance. So, to me, my sense is that a lot of these religions are in their death throes, and a lot of the followers know it. But this is their attempt to salvage that. It's an attempt of desperation because they want so much for it to be true. But anyway, that's my view on it. Anybody else have anything they wanted to reflect on Zexus's question here? Or as Zexus, did you have something to respond to me? Am I wrong in some ways here?
I would have just answered no.
I don't see that you are, because as my understanding is that the theory of evolution by natural selection stands on its own, independent from the truth or veracity of any sort of God claim. So I'm of the opinion that even if evolution abiogenesis, even if all of the current explanations that we have for the origin of life and the change in diversity of species that we see on the planet now, even if all of those understandings were proven wrong tomorrow, I don't think it does anything to support intelligent design or to show that there does exist a God.
Yeah, and it being a scientific theory, one of the criticisms that does come up from the creationist / intelligent design communities is, oh, it's only a theory. And a scientific theory is in a scientific context rather than a casual context or colloquial. And so it is considered to be a higher demarcation than just simply being denoted as a fact. So scientific theory, my understanding is, it's an explanation of how the facts work together in tandem to explain something. So it's usually got a lot more peer review behind it and whatnot, and people have tested it and modified the ideas. Evolution has been continually modified and improved on as more understanding comes to light and more facts come to be known. And so even though Charles Darwin, a lot of his ideas have since been refined, improved on, or replaced and corrected, he even started out, while he was a Christian, as striving to be the best possible scientist he could, by the looks of it. He was taking criticism in public forum through writing and whatnot, mostly, is my understanding, and updating his ideas to make sure they were more consistent with factual understanding. When people brought to him criticisms, he took them all seriously, and that's a very good thing. So, and I find it peculiar that so many Christians will criticize Charles Darwin, a fellow Christian, as ironic as it is. I'm, of course, not mentioning the part where later on he kind of stopped believing in deities, but he did publish and work on all this before all of that happened.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for taking my question. I do appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming up. Who's next, Taco?
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got Semper Paratus in queue. I did want to read a quick Otangelo quote that caught my eye, though.
Taco,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I think Amy was trying to speak up, and we both
sorry.
kind of pass. I don't want to lose what Amy's about to say.
Yeah, what's going on?
I just feel bad when I do that, but I want to agree with you, Randolph. I do feel like this is the death throes of a lot of religious institutions. Maybe not people just believing in a god. I wish that were so, but I do think the big powers to be are finding their pews more and more empty. Just adding that cherry.
And my answer to him would have just been no, right? They're unrelated, right? Evolution and religion totally unrelated. But this Otangelo quote caught my eye. This is why I do this. Nobody has even shown that non-intelligent causes assign meaning to words or codes. Prove me wrong. That's not even, that's like, it's nonsense.
Shannon Information Theory, 1952. Shannon Claude Information Theory paper. Information is a result of stochastic systems.
He's currently debating Mark Reed in Randolph's chat. I really hope that Mark Reed, if you hear this, Mark, challenge him for a debate on your channel. I'll help you host it. Make it happen. I need that.
Oh, you're talking about the YouTube live stream. Yeah, okay. I'll just post the link to our YouTube live stream in the Ethan Hangout Discord chat here. Go ahead,
sorry
talk
about that. That quote was from your YouTube live stream. Semper Paratus, welcome. What's going on? Is your mic working? I'm going to move you to audience. I'm going to pull you back up now. If this doesn't work, you're going to have to do something to fix it. Yes.
Yep. If you can, just crank it up a little bit. You're.
Is it all better now? Is it all better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, I know you probably have heard of the hard problem of consciousness, but I would say there's different interpretations of it. So, would you be in favor of the naturalistic dualist interpretation of it, be it that there are things that are in physical states of nature or whatever, but because the mind is from a different mental state, and we're talking about something from ontology, there needs to be some sort of form of separation there. So in that sense, it has some sort of legitimacy to it. That's what I'm saying.
When you say natural, do you mean like substance dualism or property dualism?
A natural dualism, naturalistic dualism.
I don't know what that means. Naturalism is monism. It's just all there is physical stuff.
Naturalistic dualism is like from like Chalmers. He's the one that started off with the hard problem of consciousness.
I just linked your
on.
link you sent me, by the way. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Just telling you your link is in chat now.
So I think naturalistic. I think Chalmers was like a property dualist.
Yeah,
so property dualism is the state that there's only material stuff, but there's the properties of different kinds of material stuff. And like substance dualism is like there's physical stuff and non-physical stuff, soul stuff.
What I say is, do you think the problem is people are too quick to reject the hard problem consciousness because they think it's reducible to just only being an idealistic notion when it doesn't need to be mutually exclusive? You probably could incorporate and accept the hard problem consciousness, and it probably would be something worth value to look into it. I think the problem is, if
I don't know anybody who dismisses the problem.
Yeah.
So like the problem is just that we have no way to investigate what consciousness is, because any way we try to, it's going to be through consciousness. And so it's necessarily going to be circular to try and investigate consciousness, which is true. We accept that, but it doesn't like lead to anything.
Yeah.
It's not like most of the people in philosophy are physicalists, which means they think it's just physical brain stuff and there's no dualism.
Well, the funny thing is, I remember looking into that. There's that paper that goes through
Phil
the
Survey's paper. Phil
Survey's
paper.
It was So it went through all the different perspectives. So it was what I found to be pretty interesting. Funny enough, is that in neuroscience they reject it, and religion they reject the hard problem consciousness too. So I think that's a bit interesting how there's this like certainty.
I don't know what you mean there. So like they don't really reject the hard problem. Their answer to it is that it's monism, it's physical or spiritual. So like I don't think nobody thinks that it's possible to investigate consciousness through some kind of like fMRI scan. So then that's the hard problem. The hard problem is that there's no way to test consciousness stuff without using consciousness. So as far as I know, everybody accepts the hard problem is a thing.
Yeah. Would you be sort of convinced in if you were to make a concession in some way, I suppose, would you interpret it through panpsychism? Do you think panpsychism has legitimacy to it?
No. I don't think that the universe is conscious. No.
I don't believe it anyway, but I want to know what's your opinion on panpsychism? Do you think it's too it makes too much of a heavy claim?
I think it makes a claim with no evidence. So I think that claiming that consciousness is fundamental to anything in the universe is baseless. It's like claiming that a pineapple is fundamental to anything in the universe. All the evidence we have is that pineapples and consciousness are a product, an emergent property of smaller, more physical stuff. And so it seems saying that consciousness is fundamental would be like saying like a pineapple is fundamental. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why not just have it be an emergent property?
I don't think the chemicals were around at the formation of the universe. It was only hydrogen, helium, and a little bit of lithium. And so,
well, their position is normally that consciousness is a force, kind of like a thing that exists at the core of everything.
So I would just need evidence of that. I'm open to it. I
think the fact of the matter, the reason why one would give credit to panpsychism is for the sake of having a conversation, the human condition. It's we're very mind dependent how we perceive things. You know what I mean? So it's almost applying it for a catch for all in relation to that.
Why would its pragmatic implications towards our lives have anything to do with the fundamental nature of reality?
But it's like for you to say a statement, that would be dependent upon like for you writing down like let's just say if you had and give an example of like how we're having a conversation right now, how we're discussing it's mind dependent. So in that sense, like how could you not acknowledge that, you know?
Well, no, so I mean, I grant that, but why would anything in our pragmatic applications of how we do things tell us anything about the fundamental nature of reality? So, like, I agree that I need consciousness to say words and to understand words, but that doesn't mean that consciousness is more fundamental than protons or electrons. It just means that I need it to say stuff. And so it's kind of
what I'm saying is there's a separation there. That's what I'm saying. There's a distinction from it, maybe. That's why dualism. Yeah.
What kind of
But
distinction?
there's a distinction, isn't there? What distinction is one that's mind dependent, one that's mind independent. So the photons don't necessarily correlate with the.
Well, let me clarify.
Humans.
So the debate between materialists, dualists, and idealists is about where consciousness is located on the hierarchy of stuff in the universe. So, like in the universe, we have biology. Biology is a result of chemistry. Chemistry is a result of physics. Physics is a result of quantum mechanics, and so on. So there's like a tiered hierarchy of what is the most fundamental stuff. The naturalist thinks that consciousness is at the same tier as brains. So brains are pretty far down the line of stuff in the universe. They're not at the base level. Whereas panpsychists and dualists say that consciousness is like at the same level of gravity. It's a thing that's like fundamental to everywhere in the universe. So we're arguing that where should we think consciousness is located in the tier of stuff in the universe? Is it more like brains, where it's a product of evolution, or is it more like gravity and electrons that's fundamental to everything in the universe?
Yeah.
I just want to put on there one of the reasons I don't think consciousness is fundamental is because we have good evidence that it is a mechanism. It just works hand in hand with your stomach, doing digestion. You know, I think that we put a lot of specialty to it because we are that mechanism, and so we want it to be this fundamental thing, if not transcending our own bodies. Once again, completely open to it. I just need empirical evidence.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like if you look at the paper, like there's loads of different. I'm not saying we have the time to break down, but there's like a lot of different perspectives that go through. Like, and you know, it's interesting how if you go through the whole like perspectives, philosophical like views, how consciousness is a thing, you know, to consider, and some people reject it because they have no, you know, they just find this has no relevance to them, I suppose. So it's like, but I don't think people cannot like. I don't think that someone has well, some of the people that reject it understand how consciousness can be pretty broad, like what you're saying, comparing it to gravity or something like that. So that's the thing.
I mean, it seems mostly like a philosophical question, though, right? Like, how could you even go about trying to answer it?
Yeah. Well, that's
is it applicable to real life besides philosophy?
Well, it's applicable to maybe if you're looking into maybe trying to discover like consciousness association with the brain, the neurocortex, like what's in between that, how to explore it. Maybe you might be doing AI research. Maybe that could be the reason why people get so bogged into consciousness, because maybe they find it, and it might be might give more insight. You know.
I mean, sure, they can't be unconscious and you be operating on their brain, testing stuff with the consciousness, right? But besides that, I mean, it seems purely philosophical.
What do you mean pure? But pure, I can't say you.
I don't see how else it would be applicable.
Well, tackle the whole thing. Well, I don't find that that's the right dichotomy. Everyone would use philosophy. Even the most person who's discovering would have to, you know, break things down to themselves and reason things out and write out a format, you know, structure. So they're using philosophical, you know, identifying certain things, you know. That's like saying we breathe air, you know. You can't just reject the philosophy, you know what I mean? It's like incorporated in so many different ways, you know.
I just feel like it's asking asking them about solipsism, right? I just feel like it's purely philosophical. And I mean, does anybody else here disagree? Does anybody think it's applicable to real life besides philosophy?
Well, it depends what field. That's it. Neuroscience, or if you're like in that avenue, or AI research, maybe. I take that as a yes. No one's to disagree with me.
Wait, what? What was the question?
Oh, he was saying that you think consciousness is applicable to like real life. Do you think it has any sort of
the hard problem of consciousness? How is that applicable to real life besides anything related to philosophy? Seems like it's a purely philosophical question.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's time to move on to our next guest, if there's not much more to add to this.
I had a quick, completely unrelated question for Semper.
Go ahead.
I apologize for this. Semper Paratus, are you from County Kerry, Ireland? That area?
No, I'm from Connacht region. Kerry would be probably more on the east side of things. It's up closer to, it would be closer to Dublin. I'm from like close enough to Leitrim.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, I mean, don't. I just wanted to hear because I was trying to like place your accent. That's all. So I'm quite hijacking things.
No bother.
And more interesting, do you like Galway girls?
No answer.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
Yeah. No.
Oh no. Okay.
No one got the movie reference. Too bad.
Okay, so
at least you said Galway properly.
Does anybody have any final questions before we move on to Captain Coyote? Perfect. Well, thanks for coming up, Semper. We're going to go ahead and pull up Captain Coyote now. I think he came up last week, didn't he? Or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, you were up 1 or 2 fortnights ago. Welcome back, Captain Coyote. How are you? And what have you got for us today?
Freak from YouTube. What's up, Randolph?
It's good to hear your voice. If you could turn up your volume a little bit, that would be helpful because your volume sounds a bit low.
1 second.
So, it's good to see you here again. What have you got for us today?
Well, I want to say hi to Peter as well, real quick. I just want to answer any questions is what I want to do, because you guys throw out all these questions to all the Christians or whoever comes up, and I like to think that I have some of those ansers.
Do you have
Is there a particular question? Is there a particular question that stands out for you?
I'm a little bit curious. Have we met Captain Coyote?
Yeah, I'm the freak in YouTube.
Oh, I know who you are.
Okay.
Hey.
My main question is, does a god or goddess exist?
I want to know, is there any evidence of God? I don't care if one exists.
Yeah, he exists, and the evidence I have is germination.
What?
And the reason I use that is because it's in the Quran. So God said it first.
Come again?
What?
Germination.
What is in the
like
Quran?
Plants.
Germination.
Right, the actual germination process, which we don't have a full scientific explanation for.
What?
We have we know the environment that's required.
Wait, what?
But
actually, there's a more fundamental thing here. You're saying that Allah, the God of the Quran, was the first one to speak on this topic. You are aware that there are other deities, many, many thousands of deities, goddesses, and gods before Allah, according to various religions. Do you have anything to say about those before yet these other guys are jumping on the germination stuff?
Well, yeah, like literally.
I want to know what part. I'm sorry.
That's all right. If there are any other gods or whatever, they're still under the God of Abraham's authority.
I want to know what part specifically, or what part of seed germination specifically we don't know about that the Quran talks about.
Now, before just want to make a quick note before we go on. I have to disappear for about 5 minutes here. When I come back, once you're done examining all of this, I would like to go through this with Captain Coyote's claim on other deities not existing or something, what he said. But go ahead and on the germination stuff, please.
Yeah, and I'm with Taco. So what exactly does the Quran say and where?
This is a topic I'm a little bit knowledgeable about and super passionate about. So please inform me here. Let's go.
Okay, it's going to be Surah 56:63 and 56:64.
Can you type in the verses in chat and Heathen Hangout?
I just punched it in. And it says,
and maybe read them out, because there's an audience that isn't in Discord that are watching on several YouTube streams. So if you could just read them out real quick.
Thanks, Peter. It's Surah 56:63. And have you seen that seed which you sow? 64.
Have you considered what you sow?
Or are we the grower? And that's it.
Okay. And what about that is evidence that they knew something about germination?
Is it you who grow, or is it we who do so?
Right.
So
this is absolute nonsense. That's not germination. All right, go on to the next topic. This is stupid.
No.
I'm sorry.
Just one quick mention.
That's not germination. That's not absolute nonsense.
Wait, I want to know. So, how did you get from that
well, the fact
quote?
Is, go ahead, TJump.
Yeah. So, what is it about that quote that you think is evidence that God exists?
Well, the fact is that we scientifically don't know exactly.
In addition to that, what in that quote didn't humans know already hundreds, maybe even thousands of years before the Quran was even written?
Well, they must have been speculating.
What
you think?
They must have been speculating. They or maybe they did know and attribute it to God.
People have been farming. Hold on, people have been farming for thousands of years. They knew what a seed was, and they knew what to do with it in order to grow plants.
Well, I want to go that's a good question, but I didn't want to ask that first. So I wanted to say, what is it about those quotes? What exact part of those quotes indicates like something significant that God exists? I'm not reading anything in those two quotes that tells me anything special. What is it in that quote that tells me something special?
Well, scientifically, we don't have the full knowledge of how germination is actually.
No, I mean, I'm asking you in the Quran, those sentences, which part of those sentences is like a really impressive part of those sentences? Like when we read those sentences, what is the part that stands out to you like it's saying something special?
Or something that humans didn't know already?
The fact that we can't fully explain it, the fact that we don't really have full knowledge of that. Well, we do have, knowledge of the process and the environment.
I want to know the words in the quote. What words in the actual quote?
It's just the process. It's just the process. Who makes it spark to life? Is it us or is it God?
Yeah. So
Captain Coyote, I'd like to compare your Quran verse or not verses, because that's going to be confusing sounding. I'd like to compare your Quran verse with I don't know, any website on seed germination. I already linked one, iowogrowliteracy.wordpress.com. If you just scroll up and chat a little bit, there's also another one above that, from study.com. Both of them go through the steps of seed germination. Both of those go into detail on what seed germination is, way more in detail than what the Quran says. The Quran asks two dumb questions. It's not a scientific miracle. It doesn't know what it's talking about, and that is not seed germination. You're just reading the Quran and then you're saying whatever to represent. It's total nonsense.
Well, I mean, it's pretty plain
what I'm
to me.
curious, the freak. What I'm curious about is you said it explains. So what does it explain? And,
No,
and
I
can
say
you
that we
can
don't
you read
explain.
that? Can you read that verbatim from the Quran, where it explains how it works?
I'm not saying that it explains it. I'm saying that we can't explain it as humans. We can't fully explain it.
Wait. So
okay,
and so therefore,
but you're saying the
he said
Quran
it,
can't.
and that means
Hold
that
on,
we can't
hold on.
explain it, right?
Hold on, but you said the Quran explains it. Now you're saying that the Quran can't explain it either.
Wait.
where's
No,
the
I don't know.
where's
I don't
the
know if those were
miracle
my
from
exact
Allah?
words, but what I'm saying is, God is asking the question, who makes the seed grow, you or me? Is what he's asking. And since we can't explain it scientifically with full knowledge, we don't have that yet, then God has to exist.
Nor
I
does
provided
he,
you
hold
two
on,
sources though that do.
Nor does God apparently,
One sec,
because
one
he
sec, one
doesn't
sec.
explain it.
Hold up.
Maybe there's a reason for that.
So you said that because we can't explain it, therefore God exists. That's your argument?
Yeah, that's what he said.
And because he said this in scripture, then the burden of proof is now on you.
No. The burden of proof is on him because he pretends to be able to explain it.
Hold up. So we're going way too fast. I don't think he's making the argument.
This is so funny.
That we did. So what you're saying is the Quran said we don't know something and we don't know that thing, therefore God exists.
No, I'm saying God said, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty plain if you just read it. Who makes the seed grow, you or me? Is what God is saying to whoever the audience is, right?
Sure.
And since we don't know that fully, then it's obviously
Let
him.
him finish.
The freak.
Let him finish.
No.
I want to hear this.
I make it grow.
Oh,
so now I don't have to explain it anymore. Just like Allah.
Well,
No. Hold on. Let me finish my sentence. You said Allah says I make it grow, and he doesn't have to explain it. Now I make the claim that I make it grow, so I don't have to explain it anymore. So now it's either me, it's either me or Allah.
Okay, so we're not to that point in the conversation yet. The first part we need to understand what Captain Coyote is saying. Captain Coyote has not. What he's saying doesn't make a lot of sense right now. So I'm trying to understand what he's exactly saying. Now it seems like what you're saying is that the Quran said, "Who is making the plants grow, me or you?" And we don't know. Right. We don't have an answer scientifically of like with the plants grow, right? And therefore, God did it.
Yep, and he called it.
I credit the gardener because apparently gardener all the best dirt.
So why couldn't it be?
So the fact is,
why
we're never going to know because it's in scripture that we won't know.
Therefore, we literally know the steps of germination.
Yeah, of course we know the steps. Of course we do.
We know what's going on while it's all happening.
What is sparking it to life? What is making it want to sprout? What is making it take
natural processes? It's natural processes. There's no like desire. Desire's not a thing in that you can't ask about desire.
Yeah, but he said it. He called it. He said, "Is it you who's making it grow, or is it me?" We don't know, right?
It's just nature, dude. When it's in the correct conditions, it will germinate, and we know all of those steps, and we know what those conditions are for probably every seed on the planet.
Right, we even know what's going on molecularly once the oxygen cracks through the shell, and but there's still that spark of life that we don't know.
Why does that spark of life have to come from God? Why can't it?
There's not a spark of life. You don't know what you're talking about.
What?
The spark of life is a nonsense thing that you're just stating to try to separate it from something else that it's not. It's a living thing. There's not a spark of life. It's never not living. It's a seed.
Again, you guys need to stop.
It's holding the living thing.
He hasn't explained his argument yet.
Say that
you can't
alive.
debunk it.
It's a single cell
why does
that is dormant?
Why does hold up? Stop. Why do we need God to explain life? Life can exist without a God. Why do we need a God to explain life?
Well, I don't know if you necessarily, the flesh doesn't necessarily need God to explain life, but it's nice to know.
What
It
is nice?
definitely
So where
makes
do
your
you
life
delineate?
better.
Where do you delineate? Do you delineate conscious life? I think you don't, because you're talking about plant life, which are not necessarily conscious as far as we know.
I'd
Yeah.
agree with that.
Why do
I
we
have a
need
question for
God
you,
to
the freak.
explain life?
Yeah, and I have a question for you, the freak, along with what Taco said. When does a seed, according to the Quran, become alive?
Oh.
It doesn't explain anything like that, in scientific terms. It's just
Can't
asking the
because
question.
it can't because it's already alive. It's a seed. It is
It's not
already
alive,
alive.
though. It's not
It is
considered
alive.
alive. It's scientifically because
It
there's
is.
no
It is
activity in it. There's
alive.
no,
It is alive.
plus the fact that it needs those conditions specifically means that it's not alive.
It is alive because it can die and no longer become a plant.
Oh, my head hurts.
So it is already alive.
Now,
It's already
Captain Coyote, you had mentioned about how the plant. You seem to be thinking that, stating that plants are conscious. If I understood you correctly, how do you define life?
No, I wouldn't say plants are conscious. A seed is a single cell that
It isn't.
once.
Not
How
a
do I
single
describe
cell.
it? What was it? How do I
Let's
what?
try to get back to the argument. Like, oh my God. Why do you need God to explain life? I think there is no God. I think it's all just natural processes. God doesn't exist and life happened on its own. Why is that a problem?
For the flesh, it's not a problem.
For everything. There is no God. Nothing. Doesn't exist. The universe did it all on its own. All plants on their own. No God. Why can't that happen?
I'm not saying that it couldn't happen according to the understanding of the flesh, but that's not what happened.
Based on what? What
No, but
evidence do you have?
Literally what TJump said, I don't know, therefore God. That means God needs to explain it. So when is God going to explain it?
Well, if he explained it, that would take away the argument that I'm putting forth right now, which is since we don't know, and he's saying, is it you or me?
That would
It's got to be
confirm.
him.
No. That would confirm your argument that it is indeed him. If he's not explaining anything, then he's just making a claim without any evidence, without any backup. It's a baseless claim. It's the exact same thing as if I would tell you I did it. So now I did it, and now you can throw away the Quran and start worshiping me because I did it.
Yeah, well, explain it then.
No. According to you, I don't have to.
Well, no, you're the one making the claim. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying he asked the question.
Allah is the one. Hold on. You just told us Allah was the one making the claim, and he doesn't have to explain it. Now I make the claim, so obviously I don't have to explain it. You just have to accept it. Throw away the Quran. Start worshiping me. Done. And I can prove that I exist. So I'm more powerful than your Allah. I can show up. I can go on camera. I have my video, my picture in my avatar. That's me.
All you have to do is fully explain.
I don't.
How germination sparks life, and then you have one.
No. I'm going to hold myself to the same standard as you hold Allah. I don't have to explain anything. You just accept it. And if you don't get 72 virgins.
Yeah, but you didn't.
Sorry, grapes.
That's not in the Quran, by the way. But
no, it's great.
If I read the steps of germination to you here, will you now be an atheist?
No, because of my witness, I couldn't do that.
But that's your contention. That's what you presented to us. That's your contention.
That's what I'm presenting to you to try and get you to consider. Consider that it might be him.
Provided two different websites with the steps. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm happy to read the steps to you so that you can know those too. And then we can both know that knowledge individually instead of just me knowing that knowledge.
I appreciate that.
Have to be confused anymore.
Taco, I hate you. You're going to explain it. I was just on my way to become God, and now you prove to be more powerful than me because you can explain it.
I'm passionate about this. This is really frustrating to me.
I wouldn't have brought this on the table if I hadn't looked at it already. And yeah, we know the steps, and we know what's going on molecularly to an extent, but it still doesn't explain what is sprouting. Making it sprout to want to seek life.
Exactly.
I believe this is the. I believe this is the.
How does able to react to the environment stimuli?
I think I've heard an
I
argument.
love your standard,
really,
the freak. Now tell us how Allah explains it.
I think I've heard an argument very similar to this. Hold up! Stop over talking me! Holy shit! I think I've heard an argument really similar to this before. It came from Bill O'Reilly. I believe it goes something like tides go in, tides go out. You can't explain that. Therefore, God.
Are you talking about the Fox News old guy, that guy, or someone else?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're talking about No Spine Zone? Are you talking about the No Spine Zone guy?
That's actually
predecessor.
That's actually a good comparison because we know how tides go in and out. We know how plants germinate. So
you don't know how germination works fully.
Yes.
So all you have to do is all you have to do as a scientist
just explained it to you.
As an atheist scientist, all you have to do is fully explain how germination works, and you have defeated God.
Taco just gave you the evidence you need.
I asked you if I told you those steps, if you would now be an atheist because you wouldn't believe that I'm God. There's no way you would believe that I'm God. So when I explain those steps to you, there would probably be like some contradiction in your brain there, and you'd be like, "Oh, he's not God." Okay, and then you would have no God, so you'd be an atheist, right? So if I read these steps to you, you'll now be an atheist, right?
That's all assumption. I've seen God. I have first-person witness of Him.
But after I read the steps of germination to you, you'll know that your God is false.
No, because I can't deny my own eyes and ears.
But you have to, because I'll read the steps of germination to you, and then you'll know that your text is false. You'll have no choice but to accept that your text is false.
I've seen Him with my own eyes and ears.
Hold on, Taco.
He said because your text will be false.
He said he's seen him. So describe him. And what I want to know specifically, what's the color of his eyes?
The Father is not human. And he looks like a star bursting, like a exploding star.
And how did you determine whether or not what you were seeing was an exploding star or the Father? How did you make that determination?
Because it was so overwhelmingly glorious and perfect, perfect that
like an exploding star.
There's no denying Him.
Like an exploding star. So how did you make the determination between the two? What's the difference between the glorious exploding star and seeing God? What's the difference?
Because you'll feel the love of God when you're in His presence.
I still am waiting for the answer. What is the difference between looking at an exploding star and looking at God? What's the difference?
Well, let's just say you are having a vision of an exploding star. You wouldn't also encounter the love of God that you would when you are before God.
Okay, I'm going to become a little bit graphic. So, Amy, plug your ears. So let's say that I'm looking at an exploding star while receiving oral sex. So I'm receiving an awful amount of love.
Oh, that's love.
How's this different? How's this different?
That feels good in a concentrated area. This is something that you feel through your entire being.
No. Then whatever you had wasn't what I had. But it's a joke. But what I'm saying is, the freak. If you look at something, you can have an emotion. The emotion doesn't have to be caused by the thing that you're looking at. So there are people who go to a musical concert and get completely overwhelmed by the atmosphere and the music, and that's a very, very profound experience to have. Some people will have that while seeing an exploding star. So my question still is whether or not you felt an emotion and attributed that to a god. It doesn't mean that that there's any correlation between the two.
All right, I'm gonna head out. I'll see you guys in a bit later.
It's the differential between just